Chapter 3300. Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude of not putting him in her eyes successfully angered Lu Jiangang. No matter what, he was still the second leader of the Xintian faction. Now, a mere 5th-level Purple Realm brat actually dared to talk nonsense in front of him. It was really abominable. In the next second, Lu Jiangang attacked Bailey Hongzhuang without hesitation. He wanted to let this guy know that there was an insurmountable gap between Purple Realm 5th level and Purple Realm 7th level. Strength was strength. If one couldn't reach this level of cultivation, everything else would just be a joke. The moment Lu Jiangang made his move, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed and she quickly retreated. She knew the gap between her and Lu Jiangang, and there was no advantage for her to face him head-on. However, Lu Jiangang had already discovered Bailey Hongzhuang's intention. He would not give Bailey Hongzhuang any chance to escape. He immediately sealed off Bailey Hongzhuang's escape route, not giving the latter any chance to escape. Although he was not as smart as Gao Hanchun and Gu Jun, in terms of combat strength, Gao Hanchun and Gu Jun were extremely convinced of his strength. Otherwise, he would not have been able to become the second leader of the Xintian faction. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang was forced to meet Lu Jiangang's palm. Her body immediately retreated a few steps before she could stabilize her body. The force from her opponent's hand caused Bailey Hongzhuang's right hand to tremble slightly. Her eyes narrowed, and she secretly thought that the strength of a Purple Realm 7th level was not simple. He could actually numb her hand for a moment. It must be known that since she started cultivating in the desert world, Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was much stronger than that of cultivators of the same level. Even if her strength was higher than that of a cultivator, he was afraid that his strength would not be comparable to hers. According to her original judgment, although there was a gap between her and Lu Jiangang's strength, the gap should not be too big. But now it seemed that she had underestimated Lu Jiangang. His strength was much stronger than she had imagined. While Bailey Hongzhuang was secretly surprised, Lu Jiangang was even more surprised. He was surprised that his palm did not directly cripple his opponent's hand. He had always been very proud of his strength. Cultivators of the same level could not be compared to him in terms of strength. Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation was 2 levels lower than his, so he should be able to completely crush her. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's hand was only trembling slightly. Although it was numb, she did not lose her ability to fight. This made him somewhat confused. His opponent's cultivation was only of the Purple Realm 5th level. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang did not waste any more time. She Hongzhuang's power, and her blood aura's power. She did not waste any more time. Lu Jiangang's Hongzhuang, Lu Jiangang Hongzhuang, and Lu Jiangang. But with blood Hongzhuang Yi S, bloods of him, of Hongzhe, of him Jiangaf, of his. Her blood aura surged into the sky, and the surrounding area was quickly enveloped by the smell of blood. However, at this moment, everyone's attention was only on Bailey Hongzhuang. As the blood aura's field exploded, Bailey Hongzhuang's aura began to rise as well. It broke through from the Purple Realm 5th level to the Purple Realm 6th level. It was still gradually increasing, but in the end it did not break through to the Purple Realm 7th level. This was because the power required was too great. Chapter 3301. The cultivators present were also shocked. Their faces flashed with astonishment. However, there were many knowledgeable people present. Even if they had never seen the blood chi field before, they still had some understanding of the characteristics and functions of the blood chi field. What's more, the demonic tower was on Penglai Island. Just thinking about the demonic tower gave everyone a certain understanding of the blood refining tower. Such rich blood chi in addition to such a heaven-defying increase in strength. Could this be the blood refining tower's inheritance? A cultivator couldn't help but voice out the doubts in his heart. This blood chi field was undoubtedly an inheritance that everyone yearned for. However, the number of people who obtained it was extremely few. Everyone had only heard of it and had never truly seen it. The demonic tower was on Penglai Island. Many people had tried to challenge it. However, most of them could only participate in the challenge tournament. No one could obtain the inheritance of the demonic tower's murderous aura. As the cultivator's voice fell, everyone's pupils shrank. When the two were connected, it really did seem like the blood chi field. This could indeed be the blood chi field. My God, I have lived for so long, but this is the first time I have seen a cultivator who obtained the blood chi field. In that case, this kid is actually a genius. I have tried to challenge the blood refining tower before. However, that level was too abnormal. I couldn't pass it at all. For a moment, everyone's gaze towards Bailey Hongzhuang changed. This was really too shocking. All the cultivators who obtained the blood chi field were geniuses. However, no one expected to meet the inheritor of the blood chi field here. Lu Jiangang obviously didn't think of this point. After everyone's reminder, he felt that he should find a way to deal with this guy in front of him. The inheritor of the blood refining tower was a genius among geniuses. If he couldn't be completely killed before he developed, then his development in the future would be extremely terrifying. Gao Hanchun and Gue Jun couldn't help but be attracted by the movements of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Their hearts were filled with astonishment. From the beginning to the end, they didn't think that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were too difficult to deal with. They didn't expect that there was such a genius cultivator among them. This was not simple. Jiangang, end the battle quickly. Kill her. Gao Hanchun said without hesitation. Hearing Gao Hanchun's words, Lu Jiangang also recovered from the shock. He immediately nodded and said, I understand. In the Penglai Palace, two figures were chatting when the aura that suddenly erupted caused the two of them to stop talking. Intense shock appeared on their faces. Zihua. This aura. When did our Penglai Island? We haven't seen such a genius for a very long time. Are you interested in going over to take a look? Long Yanwei raised his brows and smiled. Of course. In the next second, Zihua and Long Yanwei turned into two streams of light and quickly disappeared from the Penglai Palace. They appeared at the battlefield outside the Penglai Palace. Chapter 3302. It seemed that their judgment was not wrong. The other party was really the inheritor of the blood aura. This little guy is very young. It seems that he is only 20 years old. Not only did he obtain the inheritance of the blood aura, but he has also reached the 5th level of the purple realm. He is indeed a genius. Admiration appeared in Zihua's eyes. At this age, this strength, even in the Penglai Island, he was a genius among geniuses. This little guy has changed his appearance, and his disguise technique is very good. Long Yanwei raised his eyebrows as a smile appeared on his lips. If he did not have a special ability in this area, he would not have been able to see through the other party's disguise. Hearing this, Zihua was slightly stunned. He did not realize that Bailey Hongzhuang had changed her appearance. A 5th level of the purple realm against a 7th level of the purple realm. This little guy is quite brave. Zihua smiled faintly. Which genius isn't a daring person? This little guy also came out from a place like the Bloodground Abyss. His courage is naturally not something an ordinary person can compare to. The two of them looked at each other as interest appeared in their eyes. Although the Bloodground Abyss had existed for a long time, there were very few cultivators who had obtained the inheritance. It was rare to meet such a cultivator who had obtained the inheritance, so how could they not be interested? After taking a look, Zihua's gaze was immediately attracted by the white lion. That contract beast is very special. Hearing Zihua's words, Long Yanwei also looked at the white lion. With this glance, his eyes could not help but reveal a hint of surprise. He was very familiar with monster beasts. No matter what kind of monster beast it was, he could recognize it at a glance. However, the monster beast in front of him was definitely not an ordinary monster beast. Yanwei, can you tell what kind of contract beast this is? Zihua looked at Long Yanwei. He did not know as much about contract beasts as Long Yanwei. He only felt that the monster beast in front of him was unusual, but he could not tell what kind of monster it was. Long Yanwei's gaze was tightly focused on the white lion. His expression revealed some uncertainty, but the thought in his heart could not be dismissed. I think that this guy is very likely to be a beast king. Following Long Yanwei's words, Zihua could not help but be stunned. His eyes immediately widened as a thick expression of disbelief surfaced on his face. Is what you said true? Zihua couldn't believe it. How can a beast king become a human's contract beast? He had never heard of such a thing before. I also find it hard to believe. However, look at the king character on this fellow's forehead. Normally, Yao beasts would not have such a character on their foreheads. Izihua kept his eyes on White Lion, who was in the midst of battle. Purple Realm 6th level, with its mighty appearance and imposing aura, it really matched a beast king. Are you sure? Izihua raised his eyebrows. If the beast king had really become a human cultivator's contracted beast, it would be shocking news. However, Long Yanwei frowned. I feel that it's very possible, but in reality I can't be sure. Why? According to the beast king's description, the beast king should be completely white. However, this demonic beast in front of us not only has white fur, it also has red fur. The combination of red and white makes it even more ferocious. Chapter 3303. Long Yanwei was secretly speechless. He usually studied demonic beasts and boasted that he knew all demonic beasts like the back of his hand. However, he really couldn't be sure of the situation before him. Seeing that Long Yanwei couldn't be sure, Izihua was even more surprised. Usually, there was no demonic beast that Long Yanwei couldn't identify. This is really strange. Long Yanwei sighed. Looks like I'll have to ask these little guys what kind of demonic beast this is. Hearing this, Izihua couldn't help but laugh. I didn't expect you to have a time like this. After Bailey Hongzhuang's blood aura field exploded, Lu Jiangang didn't dare to underestimate Bailey Hongzhuang anymore. After the blood aura field's enhancement, Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation base wasn't too far away from reaching the 7th level of the Purple Realm. Moreover, every talented cultivator often had their own unique methods. If he wasn't careful, it was very likely that he would fail miserably. With a move, Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Jiangang began fighting. Xiao He and Xiao Bai didn't make a move from beginning to end. They were waiting for their master to find the opponent's mistake before giving the fatal blow. Bang bang bang. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Jiangang collided head-on, the astonishment on the crowd's faces couldn't help but become even more intense. Even though they had long heard of the power of the blood aura field, a 5th-level Purple Realm cultivator being able to go head-on against a 7th-level Purple Realm cultivator, this kind of increase in strength was a little too shocking. Bailey Hongzhuang's sarcastic words successfully provoked Lu Jiangang's anger. Immediately, every move he made was ruthless. He wanted nothing more than to immediately take Bailey Hongzhuang's life. In response, Bailey Hongzhuang responded methodically from beginning to end. As early as when Bailey Hongzhuang came into contact with Gao Hanchun and the other two, she discovered that Lu Jiangang was the most impulsive one among the three of them. He was far from being as careful as Gao Hanchun and Gue Jun. For this kind of cultivator, as long as you said a few words to provoke the other party, it would completely incite the other party's anger. Once the cultivator went into battle with anger, it would be easy to make mistakes. In this way, Bailey Hongzhuang could better exploit this loophole, so she deliberately chose Lu Jiangang as her opponent. At the same time, it was precisely because Gue Jun was more cautious that he would pay more attention to the surrounding situation when fighting Xiren and Xiren. It was also a good situation for Xiren and Xiren. Xiren and Shangguan Yingying fought against Gue Jun together. The two of them had cultivated together since they were young, so their tacit understanding in battle was far from what ordinary people could compare with. Gue Jun had already noticed the tacit understanding between the two of them not long after he started fighting. No matter which side he attacked, the other side would always be able to provide timely assistance, making it impossible for him to find a breakthrough. The two people in front of him were clearly only at the 5th level of the Purple Realm, but Gue Jun felt that their battle strength had reached the 6th level of the Purple Realm. Therefore, under such cooperation, he was unable to break through for a long time. In addition, not only did he have to pay attention to the situation of the two people, he also had to pay attention to the surrounding helpers that could appear at any time. For a moment, he was unable to do anything to the two people in front of him. The situation of this battle was clearly beyond everyone's expectations. Everyone thought that Gao Hanchun and the other two would definitely win this battle, as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. They never thought that this would be a stalemate. At this moment, Another burst of energy suddenly exploded. Boom! Chapter 3304. Everyone could not help but be dumbfounded. Many of them even rubbed their eyes, wondering if they had seen wrongly. Did I see wrongly? Is there another inheritor of the blood aura? You didn't see wrongly because I saw it too. However, when did the inheritance of the blood aura become so easy to obtain? Normally, I don't see any of them. Today I actually saw 2 of them. Isn't this too surprising? Oh my God, will the other 2 young people also be the inheritors of the blood aura? This is too abnormal. Before Bailey Hongzhuang's blood aura had erupted, no one had thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 would be extraordinary people. However now, no one dared to underestimate these newcomers who had just arrived at Penglai Island. This kind of strength was really abnormal. Everyone knew very well that as long as these 4 people stayed on Penglai Island for a while longer, their reputation would definitely spread. Gao Hanchun looked at Di Beichen, who was shrouded in the blood aura, in astonishment. His heart was in turmoil. Previously he still did not understand. With his 2 younger brothers' methods, since they had decided to attack Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3, there should not be any problems. However, he did not expect that they would die in the hands of these 4 people in the end. Now, he finally understood that none of these 4 people were simple characters. The inheritors of the blood aura. Just this point alone made them incomparable to ordinary people. I have underestimated you, Gao Hanchun sneered. He knew that Di Beichen and Baisher would not have the guts to deal with him. It turned out that they still had a trick up their sleeves. Di Beichen's lips curled into a devilish arc. Not only have you underestimated me, you have also overestimated yourself. Long Yanwei and Easy Hua could not help but look at each other after seeing this scene. Their decision to come and watch the show today was indeed the right decision. 2 inheritors of the blood aura. One of them could be the contract beast of the Beast King. Although the other 2 cultivators did not have such a powerful inheritance, their combat strength was also very outstanding. The potential of these 4 was simply astonishing. Ta-ta-ta. Bailey Hongzhuang took a few steps back. After probing for a while, she had a good understanding of Lu Jiangang's strength. Next, it was time to use her real move. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang's hands swiftly flipped, and the origin energy within her body surged out explosively. She wanted to seize this opportunity to break through in one go. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, Lu Jiangang did not slow down at all. His cultivation level was clearly higher than Bailey Hongzhuang's, but he still could not get rid of Bailey Hongzhuang after so long. It was really embarrassing. The 2 of you ambush Lu Jiangang. Attack him directly when his martial skill is about to be completed. Bailey Hongzhuang said. Xiao He and Xiao Bai immediately slid down from Bailey Hongzhuang's body. The 2 beads, one black and one white, did not attract anyone's attention in this dust-filled battlefield. They were already prepared long ago, and were just waiting for their master's order. As Bailey Hongzhuang's hands flipped, a rainbow-colored origin energy radiance bloomed between her hands. Chapter 3305. For a moment the crowd could not help but look at each other. Logically speaking, they were considered to be experienced and knowledgeable. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 newcomers had surprised them time and time again. It was really unbelievable. What kind of elemental energy is this? It's so special. This elemental energy is too beautiful. I've never seen such beautiful elemental energy. A look of envy appeared in the eyes of the surrounding female cultivators. It was as if she had a halo around her when she was fighting. In response, the male cultivators could not help but look down on him. He's obviously a man, but his elemental energy is so gaudy. He's just like a woman. As Bailey Hongzhuang's hand seals gradually formed, a huge 7-colored glazed pagoda appeared behind Bailey Hongzhuang. This was a martial technique that belonged to the Lan family. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the Lan family, this martial technique had naturally fallen into her hands. Although it was the same martial technique, the 7-colored glazed pagoda was much more powerful when it was executed by her than when it was executed by Lan Qingyan. The 7-colored glazed pagoda spun behind Bailey Hongzhuang. Even though they were far away, the crowd could feel the powerful energy contained within the seven-colored glazed pagoda. Earth-grade martial techniques had always been extremely powerful. Its destructive power was even more shocking. The golden sunlight shone on the seven-colored glazed pagoda. It was instantly dazzling. Feeling the aura from the seven-colored glazed pagoda, Lu Jiangang's face could not help but turn serious. At this point he did not dare to be careless. This was because he could feel an aura from the seven-colored glazed pagoda that could threaten his life. This was not a joke. Lu Jiangang's hand seals formed faster and faster. He also had to display an extremely powerful martial technique. Otherwise, he would definitely be at a disadvantage in this collision. Xiao He and Xiao Bai were beside Lu Jiangang. They had concealed their auras. At this moment, Lu Jiangang's entire heart was focused on Bailey Hongzhuang. He did not notice the threat that existed beside him. Just as Lu Jiangang's martial skill was about to be completed, Xiao He suddenly made her move. It leaped up and used itself as a weapon to attack Lu Jiangang's temple. At the same time, Xiao Bai used the same method on the other side. It would be best if they could kick Lu Jiangang's head until it exploded. Even if they couldn't, they could at least stop Lu Jiangang from using his martial skill. Bang! Bang! The sudden attack was completely out of Lu Jiangang's expectations. He didn't even notice that there were people trying to sneak an attack on him. By the time he reacted, it was already too late. The only thing he could do was to give up on using his martial skill and use his essence force to protect his brain. However, this strength was also beyond his expectations. He only felt a sharp pain coming from his temples, as if his head was going to be deformed from the kick. Lu Jiangang's figure swayed. Under such a sneak attack, he couldn't control his body at all. Xiao He and Xiao Bai quickly retreated without even looking at Lu Jiangang's attack. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang's seven-colored glazed pagoda attacked Lu Jiangang without hesitation. Poochie! Chapter 3306. This sudden turn of events had clearly exceeded everyone's expectations. It happened so quickly that many people did not even see what had happened. All they saw was that Lu Jiangang's martial skill had failed, and he was now lying on the ground. It was obvious that he would not be able to stand up anytime soon. Bailey Hongzhuang's seven-colored glazed pagoda was coming at Lu Jiangang menacingly. Once it landed on his body, even if Lu Jiangang did not die, he would be half-crippled. Jiangang, watch out! Gao Hanchun and Gue Jun could not help but shout after noticing Lu Jiangang's calm demeanor. The two of them immediately wanted to help Lu Jiangang. However, how could Di Beichen, Wen Xiren, and the others let them do as they wished? According to their plan, Bailey Hongzhuang's attack on Lu Jiangang was a breakthrough. As long as Lu Jiangang died, their chances of winning this battle would greatly increase. Seeing Di Beichen and Bai Shi standing in front of him stubbornly, Gao Hanchuan's eyes were about to split open. Previously, Di Beichen and Bai Shi had been fighting with him and had rarely faced him head-on. He did not mind at all and had only treated it as giving the kid a little more time to struggle. At this moment, he finally understood that these fellows had already made a plan. Their goal was to delay them. Bailey Hongzhuang's real goal was to deal with Lu Jiangang. Damn it! Faced with Di Beichen's entanglement, Gao Hanchun could not stand it anymore. He attacked Di Beichen viciously without hesitation. He had to save Lu Jiangang. Bang! In order to block Gao Hanchuan's path, Di Beichen blocked Gao Hanchuan's attack head-on. The enormous force caused Di Beichen to spit out a mouthful of blood. As the leader of the Heaven Shaking Association, Gao Hanchuan's strength was much stronger than that of an ordinary 8th-level Purple Realm cultivator. However, even so, Di Beichen still stood in front of Gao Hanchun. As long as Lu Jiangang died, the pressure on them would be greatly reduced. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, go and help. Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that Di Beichen, Wen Xiren, and Shangguan Yingying were under great pressure and immediately shouted. The sudden words couldn't help but surprise everyone. Wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang's team only made up of 4 people and a contract beast? What was this so-called Xiao He and Xiao Bai? Gao Hanchun and Gue Jun's faces turned cold. Their judgment was right. The reason why Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could be so fearless was because they had a helper in the crowd. In the next moment, under everyone's astonished gazes, a black and a white figure rapidly enlarged in front of everyone's eyes. Xiao Bai quickly came to Di Baichen's side while Xiao He went to help Xiren and Shangguan Yingying. These two figures seemed to have appeared out of thin air. When everyone saw these two demonic beasts, they could not help but be dumbfounded. Damn, where did these two contract beasts come from? They appeared out of thin air. What the hell is this thing? I've never seen such demonic beasts before. After Bai Shi, everyone was once again stunned by the contract beasts of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. They had always thought that there were only contract beasts. Who knew that there was not only one contract beast, but 3 contract beasts? Chapter 3307. In such an anxious situation, with the addition of Xiao He, the pressure on Wen Xiren and Shangguan Yingying instantly lessened by quite a bit. After all, with 2 people and a beast attacking together, even if the opponent's cultivation was higher than theirs, they would definitely be flustered. After Xiao He and Xiao Bai attacked, the crowd realized that the 2 contracted beasts that had appeared later had cultivation levels of the Purple Realm level 5. Gulp. The surrounding cultivators could not help but gulp. Normally, contracted beasts that could reach the Purple Realm were already extremely rare. Who would have thought that 3 of them would appear at this moment? How could they not be surprised? At this moment, the crowd only felt that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 were simply abnormal. How difficult was it to find an inheritor of the blood refining tower? Now 2 of them had appeared at once. How difficult was it to cultivate contracted beasts that were above the Purple Realm? Now 3 of them had appeared at once. These things that were extremely difficult in the eyes of ordinary people, why was it so easy for Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3? Could it be that they did not live in the same place? When Gao Hanchun realized that there was another Purple Realm level 5 demonic beast in front of him, his face was as black as the bottom of a pot. It turned out that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3's helpers were not cultivators at all, but 2 contracted beasts that had been hiding all this time. If they did not understand why Lu Zhongang's martial technique was suddenly interrupted before, they now understood after seeing Xiao He and Xiao Bai. They were probably ambushed by Xiao He and Xiao Bai. In fact, none of them had noticed the existence of Xiao He and Xiao Bai before this. Xiao He and Xiao Bai were also showing off their invincible might at this moment. How could they miss out on such a rare opportunity to fight? Their original cultivation had not yet caught up with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. However, when Di Baichen was torturing them in the oceanic world, he had also tormented them, so they had broken through just like that. After hearing Gao Hanchun and Guijun's warning, Lu Jiangang knew that danger was approaching. He immediately wanted to stand up, but unfortunately, his brain was still in a violent concussion. His vision was blurry, and he couldn't see the scene in front of him clearly. Bang! The 7-colored glazed pagoda came crashing down on Lu Jiangang like a mountain. Lu Jiangang could only rely on his instincts to retreat. However, how could he compare to Bailey Hongzhuang in terms of control? An earth-shattering sound rang out, and the entire ground exploded as if it had suffered a heavy blow. Gravel flew everywhere, and smoke and dust filled the air. Just like that, Lu Zhongang's figure was enveloped by the 7-colored light. Then, the scattered smoke and dust made it impossible for everyone to see what had happened. Bailey Hongzhuang also took a few steps back. She was very clear about the power of the 7-colored glazed pagoda. If she did not retreat, she would be easily affected by the energy. Jiangang. Seeing that Lu Jiangang was engulfed by the 7-colored light, Gao Hanchun and Guijun, who were blocked and could not rescue him, screamed at the top of their lungs. Their eyes were bloodshot, as if they could not believe what was happening in front of them. Ever since the 3 of them came to Penglai Island, they had become sworn brothers. For so many years, even if they were not biological brothers, they had always treated each other as their own brothers. This brotherhood was real. Chapter 3308. All of you deserved to die. Gao Hanchun felt as if his entire being was about to be consumed by anger. His gaze towards Di Baichen and the rest was filled with murderous intent. He could not wait to cut Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest into 1,000 pieces. His 2 younger brothers had died at the hands of these 4 people. Now his sworn brother's fate was unknown. This series of events had long enraged him to the extreme. "Big brother, we must avenge Jiangang," Guijun roared angrily. Even when the heaven-shaking faction that they had wholeheartedly created was gradually declining, he had never felt so upset. However, Lu Jiangang had met with an accident right in front of him. This had truly crossed his bottom line. A surging murderous intent spread throughout his heart. He must kill these people with his own hands. Otherwise, he would not be a human. Kill them. Gao Hanchuan's gaze was cold. Now that they did not know whether Lu Jiangang was dead or alive, they knew very well that even if Lu Jiangang was still alive, he would most likely be half-crippled. However, in the face of Gao Hanchuan's and the other surging murderous intent, Di Baichen and the rest were indifferent. At least until now, all the developments had gone according to their plan. Without Lu Jiangang, their chances of winning were greater. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze was fixed on Lu Jiangang's position. She wanted Lu Jiangang to be dead for sure. As the smoke and dust gradually dispersed, a huge hole appeared in everyone's line of sight. Looking at the hole, everyone could not help but gasp. Back when Bailey Hongzhuang had used the 7-colored glazed pagoda, they had already known that the power of this martial skill was not simple. However, at this moment, they could not help but gasp in amazement when they saw the destructive power. It was simply too shocking. Behind the huge hole, a figure was lying in a pool of blood. Lu Jiangang's figure was already extremely miserable. His bones seemed to have been broken inch by inch, and his face was as pale as a sheet of paper. He lay there, unable to move at all. If it were not for the fact that they could still vaguely sense some of his aura, everyone would have thought that he was already dead. However, even if there was still a trace of his aura, Lu Jiangang was no different from a dead person. It was impossible to recover from such a serious injury. What was the difference between becoming a cripple and dying for people like them? Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze fell on Lu Jiangang. In the next second, she threw out a knife in her hand. Then she walked to Di Baichen's side without looking. One problem had been solved. There were 2 more problems left. They would solve them one by one. Lu Jiangang, who originally had a trace of life left, had completely lost his life after being hit by Bailey Hongzhuang's flying dagger. At the moment of his death, he couldn't even say a word. This scene clearly agitated Gao Hanchun and Guijun. Their brother had actually died just like that. It was really hard for them to accept. "Di Bei, I will kill you with my own hands." Gao Hanchun glared at Bailey Hongzhuang. His cruel words came out from between his teeth. Everyone could feel the strong murderous intent clearly. Looking at Gao Hanchun, whose face was red with anger, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. "What a coincidence. I also want to kill you with my own hands." Chapter 3309. Sensing Gao Hanchuan's attack, a serious look flashed across Bailey Hongzhuang's face. She had never thought of underestimating Gao Hanchun. He was a Purple Realm 8th level cultivator and he was currently unleashing all of his power. The slightest mistake could cost her her life. The moment Gao Hanchun made his move, Di Baichen also charged forward. After the previous exchange, he had realized how terrifying Gao Hanchun was. His power was not just a little bit stronger than Lu Jiangang's. Bailey Hongzhuang was obviously unable to deal with him alone. In an instant, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen joined forces to deal with Gao Hanchun. Bai Shi and Xiao Bai took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack, surrounding Gao Hanchun from all sides. However, Gao Hanchun was indeed a powerful cultivator. Even under their siege, Gao Hanchun still maintained a certain advantage. Tyrannical and dazzling martial skills continuously exploded. Surging and turbulent origin power fluctuations spread out with them as the center. The speed of the battle was even more dazzling. The more Yizihua and Long Yanwei watched this battle, the more astonished they felt. "Yanwei, did you see clearly when Lu Jiangang was ambushed?" Yizihua slowly asked. Long Yanwei thought for a moment and said, "If I'm not wrong, Those two contracted beasts should have the ability to change their size. Previously, Xiao He and Xiao Bai had expanded too quickly. Therefore, many people thought that they had appeared out of thin air. However, Yi Zihua and Long Yanwei's eyesight was not comparable to that of ordinary people. Their sharp eyes had noticed that Xiao He and Xiao Bai had expanded in an instant. It was because of this that no one had noticed when they had launched a sneak attack on Lu Jiangang. Not to mention the other cultivators, even the two of them did not see clearly what had happened during the sneak attack. However, after what had happened later, they gradually came to their senses. This was where the problem lay. My thoughts are the same as yours. Yi Zihua nodded. I've never seen a demonic beast with such a special ability. Using it for a sneak attack is simply impossible to guard against. Even Yi Zihua had no choice but to admit that if he had been ambushed without any knowledge of the situation, then that would be very scary. Yanwei, do you know what species these two contracted beasts are? I feel that these two fellows are even more unique than the Beast King you mentioned. A look of doubt surfaced on Yi Zihua's face. He had never heard of such a demonic beast before. As Yi Zihua's voice fell, Long Yanwei's expression became somewhat complicated. He had been thinking about this problem since the moment Xiao He and Xiao Bai revealed themselves. However, after thinking for a long time, he had never seen such a demonic beast in the ancient records. Zihua, I suddenly feel that I don't know enough about demonic beasts. Long Yanwei could not help but say. Yi Zihua looked at Long Yanwei in astonishment. After all, Long Yanwei was widely recognized as the contract master who understood demonic beasts the best. Many cultivators' contracted beasts had come from Long Yanwei's hands. However, Long Yanwei had now said that he did not know enough about demonic beasts. If this were to spread, no one would believe it. However, Yi Zihua understood why Long Yanwei said so. Chapter 33:10. I'm getting more and more interested in these little fellas. Long Yanwei's smile widened. The value of these four young fellas was too high. Even if he could not defeat Gao Hanshan and Gue Jun in the end, he had to save these four little fellas. However, according to his judgment, he did not need to do anything. These four little fellas could solve the problem in front of them. Hearing Long Yanwei's words, Yi Zihua could not help but laugh. Looks like we have the same idea. Long Yanwei nodded. It's rare to come across such good seedlings. It would be a waste if we don't recruit them. Gao Hanshan, who was in a rage, used all his skills. He did not care about the loss of his primary energy at all. He only wanted to take the lives of Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. Gao Hanchuan's combat power increased exponentially. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were careful, they could not help but be injured in the storm of attacks. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang was hit by Gao Hanchuan's attack, and her figure was pushed back dozens of meters, her face instantly pale. Di Beichen had already been injured in the fight with Gao Hanshan. This battle was quite a burden for him. Bai Shi and Xiao Bai were also injured. Although they hated the guy in front of them, they had to admit that this guy's strength was not simple. The strength of the Zhentian faction's leader is indeed well deserved. His combat power is really powerful. Originally, everyone thought that the scales of victory were tilted towards Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. However, now that Gao Hanchuan's true combat power had exploded, they realized that Gao Hanchuan's combat power was far from what they thought. No wonder he could develop the Zhentian faction to this stage. However, it still fell in the end. If this continues, Di Bei and the others will be in danger. Bailey Hongzhuang's face darkened. Beichen, it's not a good idea to continue like this. Hearing that, Di Beichen nodded slightly. Indeed, we have to think of another way. His combat power is too strong. However, he won't be able to hold on for too long. We can't use a sneak attack. I'm afraid the only thing we can use is poison. Bailey Hongzhuang thought about it. Other than this method, there was really no other way. If this continued, they would be seriously injured by Gao Hanshan soon. This was obviously not a good idea. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at each other, and the two immediately made a decision. In the next second, both of their hands quickly flipped over, and the yuan power in their bodies immediately surged out. It was obviously impossible to directly use poison, as that would immediately be discovered. With Gao Hanchuan's strength, it was impossible for him to fall for it. However, if the poison needles were mixed into the attack, the chances of success would be much higher. No matter what, they had to give it a try. Seeing that Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang were using their martial skills together, Gao Hanchun was not afraid. He was confident that no matter how hard Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen tried, they would not be able to change the outcome. They would die in his hands in the end. He could not help but regret. If he had known, he would not have given Di Beichen the chance to waste time. If he could have ended the battle quickly, Lu Jiangang would not have died. This was all his fault. Chapter 33:11. Ziran, Shangguanying, and Xiao He were working together to deal with Gue Jun, but the pressure was not as great as Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beishuan's. This was because Gue Jun was the weakest among the three Gao Hanchun brothers. Even though Gue Jun was currently filled with rage and had used everything he had, Gue Jun was still unable to break through any of their defenses. However, they would not be able to deal with Gue Jun in a short period of time. When Gue Jun discovered that Gao Hanchun was suppressing Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, he was no longer in a hurry. As long as Gao Hanchun could defeat the two fellows with the blood aura field, they would be the final victors of this battle. The only regret was that Lu Jiangang had died in this battle, leaving only the two of them. Ziran Di Beixian and Di Beixian naturally discovered Gue Jun's intention of stalling for time. They wanted to heavily injure Gue Jun, but Gue Jun was like a fish in water, preventing them from breaking through. Every dog has its day. They were the ones who were speechless at Gue Jun's stalling for time. The scales of victory gradually tilted towards Gao Hanchun and Di Beichen. Everyone only felt that it would be a pity if geniuses like Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen really died at Gao Hanchuan's hands. After all, who knew how many years it took for a successor to appear in the blood-ground abyss? Now that two had appeared with great difficulty, it was a great loss for them to die just like that. If this continues, the two of them might be in danger. Yizihua raised his eyebrows slightly as his gaze fell on the injured Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. Hearing this, Long Yanwei smiled and said, "No one will know the final result until the final step." From the looks of it, these two little fellows seem to already have a plan. Yizihua was rather surprised by Long Yanwei's confidence. He immediately smiled. "I'm also rather curious about what the two of them can come up with." Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's martial skills were quickly completed. At the same time, Gao Hanchuan's martial skill was also completed. In comparison, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's martial arts skills were not simple. However, Gao Hanchun was a Purple Realm 8th level cultivator, so he was much stronger than them both in terms of strength and control. As a result, Gao Hanchuan's martial skill was extremely powerful, while Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's martial skills were much weaker. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were not surprised. In fact, this was within their expectations. "Go!" Bailey Hongzhuang shouted coldly, and a 7-colored glazed pagoda quickly fell towards Gao Hanchuan's direction. Di Beichen's actions were extremely similar to Bailey Hongzhuang's. The opponent's martial skill was strong enough, but the martial skill that the two of them displayed together was not weak either. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's confident looks, Gao Hanchun snorted coldly. When the difference in strength was extremely obvious, no matter how many martial skills the opponent had, it would not change the outcome. "I'll send you to accompany Jian Gang to the grave," Gao Hanchun shouted angrily. Then, he waved his hand and his martial skill immediately attacked Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. However, Gao Hanchun, who was full of confidence, did not notice that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's martial skill included several silver needles that contained deadly poison. Chapter 33:12. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion rang out, deafening and resounding through the clouds. The entire world seemed to tremble along with this earth-shattering explosion. Bang! 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 The explosive sounds of elemental energy colliding continued to ring out, and the flat and hard ground cracked inch by inch under the shock waves. Gravel flew everywhere, and smoke and dust spread out like a mushroom cloud, completely enveloping Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. No one could see clearly what was going on. The spectating practitioners all took a few steps back and used their elemental energy to protect their bodies. Otherwise, they would be caught off guard by the shockwaves and be injured. Guijun, Wen Xiren, and the others who were fighting at the side couldn't help but stop what they were doing when they saw this scene. Their gazes fell on the smoke and dust. With such a huge shockwave, they were all very concerned about their teammates. Most importantly, the outcome of this battle was very likely to be decided. When Xiren and Shangguan Yingying looked at each other, and a trace of worry flashed in their eyes at the same time. They had underestimated Gao Hanchuan's strength. With Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's combined strength, it wouldn't be a problem to deal with a Purple Realm 8th level practitioner. However, Gao Hanchun wasn't an ordinary Purple Realm 8th level practitioner. His combat strength was probably comparable to a Purple Realm 9th level practitioner. It was precisely because of this that they had fallen into such a situation. Otherwise, everything would have been extremely smooth. Now they couldn't judge the final outcome. They had never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen would fall in this battle. If Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were defeated, then the only thing they could do was to bring Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying away quickly. Revenge was a dish best served cold. As long as they escaped today, what was the point of revenge in the future? For a moment, both Guijun's side and Xiren's side were extremely nervous. As the smoke and dust gradually dispersed, a crater of several hundred meters in size appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The crater where Lu Jiangang fell was also affected by the energy impact. Everyone took a look and saw that Lu Jiangang had probably turned into a cloud of blood mist and dissipated in the air. Not even his bones were left. In his line of sight, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were both lying on the ground. Their clothes were dyed red with blood. Their faces had turned deathly pale, and they were panting heavily. Di Beichen tried to stand up with his hands on the ground, but he found that all the strength in his body seemed to have been squeezed out. A few of his ribs had been broken by the impact just now, and it was difficult for him to breathe. Bailey Hongzhuang was right next to Di Beichen. Her situation was even worse than Di Beichen's. As soon as she opened her mouth, she spat out a mouthful of blood. The energy impact was simply too powerful. She felt as if her internal organs were about to shift. She felt a burning pain, and every inch of her body was accompanied by immense pain. Bai Shi and Xiao Bai immediately came to Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. They glared fiercely at Gao Hanchun. Gao Hanchun was still standing in the same spot as before. Although he was also injured, he was clearly in a much better state than Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. Seeing this scene, everyone could not help but sigh. The result could not be more obvious. Gao Hanchun won. The two of them were no match for him. Chapter 33:13. After seeing this scene, Guijun's face suddenly revealed a joyful smile. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen died and Gao Hanchun came, when Xiren and Shangguan Yingying in front of him could only die. You're finished. Guijun grinned and said. When Xiren and Shangguan Yingying's expressions were extremely ugly, even though they had already guessed this outcome. When this scene really happened, they still found it hard to accept. They didn't expect that they would make a mistake in judgment, causing them to fall into such a situation. When Xiren and Shangguan Yingying looked at each other, and the two immediately made a decision. With a thought, they directly rushed to Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's location. Looking at Xiren and Shangguan Yingying's actions, Guijun didn't care. Anyway, the two of them were already dead, so what if they struggled for a while? Bailey Hongzhuang immediately took out healing medicine from her Qiankuan bag and gave it to Di Beichen and herself. Their injuries were really bad, but fortunately, it didn't damage their foundation. The two of them stared at Gao Hanchun. They had already used all their means, but the explosion just now was too shocking, and they couldn't see Gao Hanchuan's situation clearly. Therefore, they couldn't judge whether Gao Hanchun was hit or not. When Xiren and Shangguan Yingying immediately came to Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's side, and immediately wanted to escape with Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. In their opinion, as long as they could escape a certain distance and hide in Bailey Hongzhuang's chaos ring, they believed that no one would be able to find them. Speaking of which, Bailey Hongzhuang's chaos ring was the reason why they were so fearless. At the same time, Gue Jun also came to Gao Hanchuan's side with a smile on his face. At this moment, he wanted to see how Shangguan Yingying and Shangguan Yingying could rescue the seriously injured Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. "Ben, let's go." However, Di shook his head. His eyes were still locked on Gao Hanchun. "Wait." Upon hearing Di Beichen's words, Xiren couldn't help but feel anxious. "Why are you still waiting at a time like this? If we wait any longer, we won't even have any hope of leaving." Bailey Hongzhuang locked her gaze on Gao Hanchun. When she noticed the slight bruise on Gao Hanchuan's face, her lips slowly curled into a smile. Gao Hanchun had been hit. Shangguan Yingying looked at the smile on Bailey Hongzhuang's face strangely. She couldn't believe it. Now that they were in a terrible situation, how could Bailey Hongzhuang still laugh? What was going on? Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly chuckled. Even though the pain on her body was still intense, her smile was still as bright as ever. When the crowd saw Bailey Hongzhuang's sudden laughter, their expressions instantly turned strange. "What's going on?" Gao Hanchun stared fixedly at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. He never thought that these two fellows would still have a trump card up their sleeves during the battle. Initially, he should have won this battle without a doubt. However, he never thought that the two of them would use the silver needles of reaping life as a martial technique. Under the influence of the energy ripples, he didn't pay much attention. By the time he had reacted, it was already too late. Chapter 33:14. As soon as the silver needle entered his body, he immediately discovered that the silver needle was highly toxic. Thus, he immediately used his origin energy to forcefully expel the poison from his body. However, he was shocked to find that the poison seemed to be able to adhere to his Yuan Li. The more he used his Yuan Li to force it out, the faster the poison circulated in his body. In a short period of time, it had already invaded his body. Under such circumstances, he could only stop the flow of Yuan Li in his body. Otherwise, he would only die if this continued. However, even after he did so, the speed of the poison circulating in his body only slowed down a little. However, it was worsening his body step by step. He didn't know much about poison, but he could determine how powerful this poison was. It could take his life at any time. Di Beichen's lips slowly curled into a devilish smile. It seemed like their plan had succeeded. Bailey Hongzhuang lay down in relief and said to Xiren and Shangguan Yingying, "Beichen and I are temporarily unable to fight. I'll leave the rest of Gue Jun to you guys." Shangguan Yingying and Xiren were stunned when they heard this. However, the two of them quickly reacted. It seemed like the result of this battle wasn't what they saw on the surface. The real winners were Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. Gue Jun also realized that something was wrong at this moment. He couldn't help but ask, "Big brother, what's wrong with you?" However, Gao Hanchun didn't answer Gue Jun at all. Under such circumstances, Gue Jun gradually realized that Gao Hanchuan's face had turned purple. His pupils couldn't help but shrink. "Poison! Big brother, you've been poisoned." Gue Jun was completely dumbfounded at this moment. He had never thought that his big brother would actually be poisoned. If that was the case, wouldn't the situation be extremely bad? As soon as Gue Jun finished speaking, the spectating cultivators finally understood the real situation. Suddenly, the way everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen changed. None of them had noticed when Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen had poisoned them. Most importantly, Gao Hanchun was already at the 8th level of the Purple Realm. What kind of poison could cause Gao Hanchun to fall into such a state? Poison had always been something that cultivators were very wary of. However, after reaching such a high level of cultivation, ordinary poison would not be able to affect them at all. However, the poison that Bailey Hongzhuang and Gao Hanchun had used on Gao Hanchun was truly terrifying. Bang! In the next second, Gao Hanchun's figure suddenly fell backward. Gue Jun immediately supported Gao Hanchun, and a panicked look quickly appeared on his face. He shouted loudly, "Big brother, how are you?" Gao Hanchun only looked at Gue Jun, and the purple color on his face became more and more intense. He said, "Highly toxic poison. I'm afraid I won't make it." He had never thought that he would fall into the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen like this. They were just a few newcomers who had just arrived at Penglai Island from the outside world. How could he fall into their hands again and again? In the end, he even lost his life. He couldn't accept it. However, he knew his own body's condition very well. If he didn't have the antidote, he would die. Obviously, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen would never give him the antidote. Chapter 33:15. At the same time, when Ziren, Shangguan Yingying, Baisher, Xiaohe, and Xiaobai all walked towards Guijun, Gao Hanchun could no longer cause any trouble, so it would be a piece of cake for the two of them and the three beasts to deal with Guijun. As he watched Ziren and the others approach, Guijun's face turned pale. He could not help but ask, "What are you trying to do?" Ziren chuckled, "Do you even need to ask?" A sense of fear rose in Guijun's heart. He simply could not imagine that the three of them would lose their lives in the hands of these people. He could not help but feel regret. If he had known this would happen, they would have left immediately after the auction. Then none of this would have happened. Unfortunately, they had gone through so much trouble to find these fellows. They never thought that they would lose their lives in the process. At the thought of this, Guijun did not hesitate to flee towards the back. It was impossible for him to fight them head-on. This was the only way for him to survive. When Ziren had already guessed Guijun's thoughts. Therefore, he had immediately chased after Guijun the moment he had fled. He would not give him any chance to escape. Everyone could not help but sigh at the sight of this. The reversal of the ending had exceeded everyone's expectations. The show is over. Let's go. A smile appeared on Long Yanwei's face. His judgment had been correct. These two little fellows had left a backup plan. Yi Zihua raised his eyebrows and a trace of doubt appeared in his eyes. Are we going to leave just like that? Aren't we going to talk to them? Based on their current situation, if we were to approach them rashly, I'm afraid that they would feel hostile towards us. It's better to wait until their injuries have healed before we talk to them. The effect would be better. Long Yanwei smiled. Hearing this, Yi Zihua could not help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. He nodded, "You're right." Ziren and the others had chased after Guijun very quickly. This was because Guijun no longer had any will to fight. All he wanted to do was to escape. When Ziren and Shangguan Yingying returned, the four of them looked at each other and smiled. They had given it their all. Fortunately, the result was as they had expected. The four of them kept the Cosmos pouches on Gao Hanchuan's team of three. After making sure that they did not leave anything behind, they left the matter to Penglai Island's guards to deal with. Inside the inn, when Ziren and Shangguan Yingying looked at the severely injured Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, their faces full of worry. "How do you feel? Are your injuries serious?" Di Beichen waved his hand. "A few broken bones and some internal injuries. It's not a big deal. I'll recover after a few days of rest." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. "We won't die. However, it's true that we'll need to rest for a while." Looking at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's nonchalant expressions, when Ziren and Shangguan Yingying felt helpless. However, they were often injured, so they were already used to it. "It seems that we'll have to stay on Penglai Island for a while. You guys should rest first. The two of us will also be going back to rest." Ziren smiled faintly. Although his and Shangguan Yingying's injuries were not as serious as Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's, they were still injured. In the next few days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others stayed in the inn to recuperate until their injuries were completely healed. Chapter 33:16. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three checked Gao Hanchuan's Qingkuan bag. But when they saw the things inside, they couldn't help but feel disappointed. Logically speaking, as the three leaders of the heaven-shaking faction, Gao Hanchuan's group should have a lot of wealth, but when they checked, they found that there was nothing valuable inside. There weren't many treasures, and the number of spirit stones was also very small, which was very different from what they had imagined. In any case, they are the leaders of the heaven-shaking faction. I didn't expect that after so many years, they would end up in such a state. Tsk. Xiren couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. He originally thought that he had slaughtered 3 little fat sheep, but he didn't expect that they were so poor. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the things inside the Qingkuan bag, and couldn't help but say, "It seems that the news we heard before was not wrong at all. The development of the heaven-shaking faction is not as good as before." In order to keep the heaven-shaking faction alive, Gao Hanchuan's group has spent almost all their wealth. A starving camel is still bigger than a horse. The things in this guy's Qingkuan bag are not even as much as I am. Shangguan Yingying shrugged her shoulders. She originally had a trace of expectation, but now it seemed that she was thinking too much. Di Beichen took out 2 pieces of the map fragment from Gao Hanchuan's Qingkuan bag, and a smile slowly appeared on his face. Although we didn't get anything else, at least this map fragment is still here. This is already the most important thing. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 2 looked at each other and smiled. The reason why they took the risk to deal with Gao Hanchuan's group was because of this map fragment. The 4th map fragment is really in Gao Hanchuan's hands. Our judgment was not wrong at all. Xiren's eyes were brimming with pride. His divine prophecy was so accurate. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the other 2 pieces of the map from her arms. They found that Gao Hanchun had already dealt with these pieces of the map, so the 4 pieces could be directly pieced together. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 pieced the 4 map fragments together, a surprising scene occurred. They saw that the pattern on the map seemed to flow and change in an instant. The mountain range constantly squirmed, becoming completely different from what they had seen before. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen couldn't help but look at each other. It seemed that the map fragment was more complicated than they had imagined. How on earth was this made? I've never heard of such a wriggling map. Shangguan Yingying's eyes widened. This scene was beyond her knowledge. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 2's expressions were no better than Shangguan Yingying's. They had never heard of such a scene before. Soon the map fragments merged into one, as if it had never been torn apart. Facing such a completed map, everyone was a little dumbfounded. Looks like Beichen and your team's luck isn't ordinary. There's an 80 to 90% chance that there's a huge treasure behind this, Xiren said. Immediately, the 4 of them moved closer to the map to take a look. They wanted to know where the map was pointing to. However, after taking a look, the 4 of them were still confused. The map fragment we saw before clearly pointed to the outside world, but I've never heard of any of the locations on this map. Chapter 33:17. Do you guys know where this is? Di Beichen and the other 2 looked at it carefully for a while before shaking their heads. We don't know. I've never seen any of the names on this map before. Also, this terrain doesn't seem to be similar to the Shangxian continent. Could it be that this map is referring to Penglai Island? Xiren was confused. Di Beichen shook his head. There is an ocean drawn on this map, but it doesn't match the terrain of Penglai Island. There is no island drawn on this map at all. Then where is this place? Could it be the extreme north or the extreme east? Perhaps there is something similar to Penglai Island there? Shangguan Yingying said whimsically. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's deep black phoenix eyes flashed with a light of thought. This is not impossible, but the possibility is not high. As far as I know, other than the extreme south where there is an existence like Penglai Island, there doesn't seem to be anything special about the other places. So it seems that it will be very difficult for us to find the treasure on this map? Xiren sighed. He was originally full of interest to search for the treasure. He didn't expect that even with the map they couldn't even find a place on the map. At this time, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly noticed a row of small words at the bottom right of the map. Without breaking through to the purple realm and above, it is impossible to know the location of this place. Bailey Hongzhuang read out these words, but the confusion in her eyes became even more intense. Why is this place related to cultivation? Di Beichen picked up the map and looked at the row of kids carefully. His expression became complicated. Could it be that different cultivation levels lead to different maps? After all, when they first saw the map, they felt that the terrain on it was very familiar. Now that the 4 pieces of the map were pieced together, they were not familiar with it at all. If that was the case, then perhaps the map they were looking at now was not the same as the real map. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and said, "Maybe that is the case, but this map is really mysterious. If that's the case, then we will know when we break through to the purple realm and above." Xiren's eyes lit up. Compared to the hopeless situation before, at least they could see hope now. This was very good. It's useless to think about this now. We can only wait until we break through to the purple realm and above. Shangguan Yingying spread her hands. She originally wanted to search for the treasure right now, but she didn't expect that there was a minimum requirement. With their current cultivation levels, they couldn't even determine the location of the map. And isn't the most important thing now? Bailey Hongzhuang quickly figured it all out, a light smile appearing on her face. She had to make a trip back after the Demon Tower. At least she didn't have to let her family continue to worry. If her family was interested, it would be a good choice for them to come to Penglai Island to cultivate together. After all, the resources here could help cultivators improve even more. Chapter 33:18. Beichen, you and Hongzhuang's injuries are almost healed, right? When Xiren asked, "If there are no problems, we can set off for the magic tower." Di Beichen nodded. "We are fine now, we can set off at any time." "Then let's set off later, we have stayed here long enough." Okay. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 packed up their things, they were ready to set off for Penglai Island. However, just as they were about to leave, a figure blocked their path. Seeing the sudden appearance of this unfamiliar figure, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 2 could not help but frown. They did not know where this uninvited guest came from, and they could not tell whether he was a friend or a foe. "Are you all preparing to leave Penglai Island?" Long Yanwei looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 who were heading to the dock, and a kind smile appeared on his face. Ever since he saw the battle between Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 that day, he had already made up his mind to find a way to keep the 4 of them in Penglai Palace. It would be a real pity if such a talent were to slip away right in front of him like this. However, the 4 of them were seriously injured at that time, so he did not disturb them. Today, he rushed over as soon as he heard the news that the 4 of them had left the inn. He did not expect them to be preparing to leave Penglai Island. Hearing Long Yanwei's question, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3's eyes could not help but show a hint of vigilance. They had been staying in the inn for the past few days and had not come out. Today they had just left and this person had come looking for them. He must have been paying attention to them, otherwise he would not be so clear about their situation. "Who are you? Why are you looking for us?" Di Beichen asked. Noticing the vigilant look on Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3's faces, Long Yanwei could not help but smile and explain, "Don't worry, I have no ill intentions." However, Long Yanwei's explanation was not convincing to Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3. "Let me introduce myself. I am Long Yanwei from Penglai Palace. The purpose of my visit this time is to recruit you into Penglai Palace." As soon as these words came out, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 could not help but be shocked. Their vigilance weakened a little, but it still did not dissipate. "I happened to see your previous battle. To be honest, I admire geniuses like you. If you can join Penglai Palace, you will definitely have a better development. I wonder if you are interested in joining Penglai Palace?" Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 looked at each other. According to their understanding, There were many cultivators who wanted to become a member of Penglai Palace. As long as one became a cultivator of Penglai Palace, one would undoubtedly have an additional layer of protection when walking on Penglai Island. Ordinary cultivators would not dare to find trouble with Penglai Palace's disciples. If they are not Ibachan Palace, they are. Of course they are. They are. They go out. Them. Edition. I don't think we should go. Dibachan thought for a moment and said their decision. Chapter 33:19. Long Yanwei was originally very confident that as long as he extended an olive branch, no one would refuse. However, Dibachan had only considered it for a few seconds before rejecting it. Rejected? Even Long Yanwei could not come back to his senses for a moment. The Penglai Palace was the strongest force on Penglai Island. Although it was usually called the Three Great Forces along with the 100 Flowers Gate and the Crimson Moon Sect, everyone knew that the Penglai Palace was the most powerful existence among them. One could tell from the fact that the Penglai Island and the Penglai Palace had the same name. Usually, many cultivators would sharpen their minds to join the Penglai Palace. If someone was willing to extend an olive branch, everyone would be grateful. However, he had personally come to recruit the other party and was directly rejected. He looked at the four little fellows in front of him and saw that the four little fellows had calm expressions. They did not reject an excellent development at all. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two supported Dibachan's approach. Currently, they were not in the mood to join other forces. After the trip to the demonic tower, they would have to return. As for when they would return to Penglai Island, even they did not know. At this moment, they would not be able to do anything at all if they joined. It was better not to waste time. Are you guys really not joining? Long Yanwei could not help but ask again. Dibachan nodded. We really don't plan to join. Facing the other party's expressionless face, Long Yanwei was speechless. Could it be that their Penglai Palace's position on Penglai Island had been declining during this period of time? Why? After thinking about it, Long Yanwei could not help but ask the reason. He really could not think of a reason for the other party's rejection. Originally, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three still had some doubts about Long Yanwei's true identity. However, looking at Long Yanwei's expression at this moment, they no longer doubted him. Speaking of which, they knew in their hearts that they had indeed rejected an excellent opportunity. However, with their current situation, they had no choice but to do so. We need to make a trip back. Dibachan did not intend to explain. However, after seeing Long Yanwei's sincere appearance, he still gave the reason. However, after listening to Dibachan's words, Long Yanwei did not recover for a moment. Make a trip back? To the outside world? Not bad. You don't plan to stay on Penglai Island anymore? Long Yanwei frowned. If the other party did not plan to stay on Penglai Island, it was normal for them to reject him. With your current cultivation, you can only develop better if you stay on Penglai Island. Why are you in such a hurry to go back? When we first came to Penglai Island, we left without saying goodbye. Our family must be very worried about our current situation, so we decided to go back. After Long Yanwei found out the reason, he was completely speechless. Just because of such a reason, the other party refused to join the Penglai Palace? No one would believe such a thing even if he told them about it. As long as you join the Penglai Palace, our palace can send messages on your behalf. Therefore, this is not a problem for you at all. Moreover, you can save a lot of time, Long Yanwei said. Chapter 33:20. What do you think? Long Yanwei could not help but ask again when he saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three's expressions were slightly relaxed. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three shook their heads again. We plan to explore the demonic tower. If we join the Penglai Palace, I'm afraid we won't have the chance to go. They did not know much about the Penglai Palace, but they knew that the disciples of the 100 Flowers Gate basically stayed on 100 Flowers Island. Unless invited, they would not leave at all. Thinking about it, if they joined the Penglai Palace, they would have to stay on Penglai Island forever. Compared to that, freedom was more important to them. I think you don't know much about the Penglai Palace. Long Yanwei laughed involuntarily. We, the Penglai Palace, have never restricted the freedom of our disciples. Every disciple of the Penglai Palace has freedom. Whether they choose to stay in the palace to cultivate or go out to train, we will not stop them. In this regard, we are the same as the Crimson Moon sect. Only the disciples of the 100 Flowers Gate usually stay on Penglai Island. We encourage our disciples to go out to train and fight the sea monsters. The reason why the disciples of the 100 Flowers Gate do not leave is not because their freedom is restricted. It is because they have improved a lot by staying on 100 Flowers Island, so most of the disciples are unwilling to leave. Hearing Long Yanwei's explanation, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three finally understood. So that was the case. Previously, they had been in seclusion and did not know much about the three major factions. That was why they had such a misunderstanding. I see. However, even though Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three knew this, they did not have the thought of joining the Penglai Palace. This was because joining the Penglai Palace did not seem to bring them any benefits. Although becoming a disciple of the Penglai Palace would make them more famous and they could receive a certain amount of cultivation resources every month, these were not very attractive to them. With Bailey Hongzhuang's ability, she could obtain spiritual stones in the demonic tower faster. Long Yanwei felt a little helpless when he saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three were still unmoved. Originally, he thought that he had shown enough sincerity by coming personally to recruit Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. If it were any other cultivator, they would have agreed immediately. However, judging from the current situation, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others probably didn't even know who he was. Under such circumstances, he naturally couldn't introduce himself with great fanfare, lest he be suspected of blowing his own trumpet. If the other party was just a cultivator with average potential, he would have given up recruiting him with such an attitude. After all, the dignity of Penglai Palace was not to be trifled with. However, when he thought about how Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were the inheritors of the Bloodground Abyss and the three special monsters, he felt that he could not let them leave just like that. At the very least, he had to find out whether Baisher was the Beast King or not and what kind of monsters the two monsters that could change their sizes were. He had been flipping through books these days. However, he had flipped through almost all the books but could not find an introduction to the three monsters. This made him very curious. If Senior has nothing else, then we will leave. Di Beichen cupped his hands at Long Yanwei, and immediately prepared to leave with Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. Chapter 33-21. As long as you join Penglai Palace, I'll give you a demon pet egg that's suitable for you. How about it? Long Yanwei saw that Di Beichen and the other three had made up their minds not to join. After thinking about it, he couldn't help but throw out a heavy bomb. If the cultivators who knew Long Yanwei heard this, they would be pleasantly surprised. Because Long Yanwei was a famous contract master on Penglai Island, he had a lot of demon pet eggs in his hands, and they were all of high quality. Usually many people wanted to ask for a demon pet egg from Long Yanwei, but other than the disciples of Penglai Palace, no matter how others begged, it was useless. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three heard this, their eyes couldn't help but light up. Demon pet eggs, this wasn't something that could be seen often. They didn't expect Long Yanwei to say such a tempting condition. A demon pet egg that's suitable for us? Di Beichen looked at Long Yanwei. He didn't know what kind of suitable Long Yanwei was talking about. Demon pet eggs, with their ability, it wasn't that they couldn't get it. It was just that it was very difficult to get a demon pet egg that was suitable for them. If it wasn't suitable for their situation, then it was just a waste of the contract opportunity. Seeing that Di Beichen and the others' faces finally changed, he couldn't help but nod and said, "That's right, it's a demon pet egg that's suitable for you. The contract beast that a cultivator of the 5th level of the Purple Realm needs must have a lot of development potential. If you just rely on yourself to find it, then it's very difficult, but I can do it." Speaking of this, Long Yanwei's face suddenly revealed a strong sense of confidence. On Penglai Island, other people didn't have the confidence to say this, but he did. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 looked at each other. They really didn't expect that it would be such a proposal. Really? Shangguan couldn't help but ask. All along, she had hoped to have a contract beast that belonged to her. Especially after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's 3 contract beasts, she was extremely envious. This kind of contract beast could not only accompany her on normal days, but also be an expert in battle. It could undoubtedly increase her battle strength by a lot. Unfortunately, she never found such a contract beast. Long Yanwei nodded. "If you don't believe me, you can ask around for my name. I'm a contract master of Penglai Palace. Many cultivators in Penglai Palace got their contract beasts from me. You don't know anything about me. I don't think you will believe everything I say. Why don't you ask around today and go to the Penglai Palace to find me tomorrow?" Long Yanwei had a faint smile on his face. From the expressions of these 4 little fellows, he knew that these 4 little fellows were already tempted. Presumably, no one would be able to refuse such a condition. Although it would break the rules of Penglai Palace with his status, it was not a big deal to break it a little. Without waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 to answer, Long Yanwei had already handed a token to Di Beichen and said, "Tomorrow, take this and come to Penglai Palace to find me." With that, Long Yanwei left. He was willing to give these 4 little fellows some time. After Long Yanwei left, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but look at each other. Their minds couldn't wrap their heads around it. Chapter 33-22. When Zyron nodded with a stupefied expression, "That seems to be the case. With our current strength, the level of the demon pet egg that we need is not an ordinary high level. He actually said that he would give it to us?" Bailey Hongzhuang was a bit incredulous. She was also a contract master, so she naturally knew the value of this demon pet egg. The higher the level of the demon pet egg, the higher the difficulty of the contract. Back then, the few demon beasts that she helped to contract were not high level, so she was able to complete the contract. If the level was high with her ability at that time, she would not be able to complete the contract. However, if this Long Yanwei was able to seal a demon beast of this level, it could be seen that Long Yanwei's ability in this area was not ordinary. Di Beichen's eyes were also filled with doubt. This feeling was like a pie that fell from the sky and was suddenly hit by good luck. However, with their usual style, they did not believe that there would be such a good thing. "Why do we care so much about him? Won't we know if we ask the others?" Xiao Hei's eyes flashed with excitement. If Di Beichen and the others could have contracted beasts, then their contracted beast team would increase again. If a few more little guys came, they would have something to bully. From the attitude of this Long Yanwei, we can see that his identity should not be simple. If we casually ask around, I'm afraid that many people will know. Xiaobai also spoke out. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 looked at each other. Just as Xiao Hei and Xiaobai said, there was no point in them thinking too much here. This was something that could be found out as long as they understood it. Immediately, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 gave up the idea of leaving Penglai Island. If they missed such a good opportunity, it would be a pity. When the 4 of them returned to the inn and asked the waiter about Long Yanwei, the waiter's face could not help but be filled with shock. "Yes, you actually don't know Master Long?" Di Beichen nodded. "We are newcomers to Penglai Island, so we don't know much about this place. We just happened to hear Master Long's name today. I hope you can introduce him to us." After hearing Di Beichen say that he was a newcomer to Penglai Island, the waiter revealed an understanding expression. "So that's how it is. Otherwise, I was wondering why you guys hadn't heard of Master Long's name in Penglai Island. The attendant smiled awkwardly as if he was apologetic for his exaggerated attitude earlier. Master Long is the contract master of the Penglai Palace. Many cultivators have sharpened their minds to join the Penglai Palace. Master Long was one of the reasons why the Crimson Moon sect couldn't compare to the Penglai Palace for so many years. This was because Master Long had a lot of demon pet eggs in his hands. Moreover, these demon pet eggs were of very high levels. As long as you become a disciple of the Penglai Palace, you may be able to obtain a demon pet egg. This is the most attractive part. However, not every disciple of the Penglai Palace can have it. The waiter immediately introduced a lot of things about Long Yanwei to Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three. Until this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three finally understood why Long Yanwei revealed such a shocked expression when he knew that they chose to refuse. Chapter 33-23. After the attendant left, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh out loud. I'm afraid that Long Yanwei didn't even think that the four of us are real laymen. We haven't even heard of his name. Shang Guaninging laughed like a flower. Now that I think of Long Yanwei's expression before, I find it very interesting. Haha. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. She also felt that it was very funny. A big shot appeared in front of them just like that, but the four of them didn't know at all. Thinking about it, any big shot who encountered such a situation would be very helpless. They wouldn't even have the slightest chance to show their status. In that case, Long Yanwei can really give us suitable demon pet eggs. This is a very rare opportunity. Di Beichen's face showed a touch of seriousness. Long Yanwei had the entire Penglai Palace as his backing. This foundation was naturally not something that an ordinary person could compare with. If it were them, it would be extremely difficult to find a contract beast that was suitable for them. Now that such a good opportunity was in front of them, it would be a pity to give it up. Since the Penglai Palace won't restrict our freedom, why don't we join the Penglai Palace? There's no harm in it anyway. Xiren's eyes flashed with interest. He had the idea of not taking advantage of a bastard. If he missed this opportunity, then it would really be the wrath of the heavens and the resentment of the people. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. If you can have your own contract beast, as long as you train it well, the speed of its improvement will be very fast. This was an opportunity to increase the overall strength. A contract beast was the most loyal partner of a cultivator. This was definitely worth it. It seems that we all have the same idea. Di Beichen glanced at everyone and then smiled. Since the Penglai Palace can help us pass this news back, then we might as well let the people of the Penglai Palace help us. Anyway, as long as they pass the news that we are safe and sound, everyone can rest assured. Xiren said. Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment. With their current situation, as long as their family knew that they were safe, there was indeed no need to rush back. After all, cultivating here was faster for them to improve. When we go to the Penglai Palace tomorrow, we will ask this question again. If we can bring the Qianquan bag back, it will undoubtedly be the best. Ever since they came to the Penglai Island and saw that everyone was using spirit stones to cultivate, Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to bring the spirit stones she earned back. Although she only had a few 100,000 spirit stones, it was enough for Lan Yunxiao and the others to cultivate for a while. The cultivators of Penglai Island were so strong that they posed a threat to the outside world. However, most of the cultivators of Penglai Island only stayed here and had no intention of going out. Qian's is Qian's and the Qian plan. Qian's is Qian's face. Now that their problems had been solved, it would be best if their family members could also improve their strength. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three went to Penglai Palace early after making a decision. Chapter 33-24. However, as soon as Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three approached Penglai Palace, they were stopped by the gatekeepers. Who are you? The two cultivators looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three with a serious expression. Those who are not disciples of Penglai Palace are not allowed to enter. Di Beichen immediately took out the token that Long Yanwei had given them. We are here to look for Master Long. Please pass on the message. Master Long? Listening to Di Beichen's words, the two could not help but show a touch of surprise in their eyes. Usually, there were many people who wanted to see Master Long, but there were very few who could really see him. However, the token in Di Beichen's hand was somewhat familiar to them. It did seem to belong to Master Long. Suddenly, the two of them looked at Di Beichen and the other three with a different gaze. Wait here for a moment. I will pass on the message. Thank you. Not long after, the disciple who went to pass on the message came back. Come with me. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three suddenly showed a smile on their faces. They followed the disciple and walked into the interior of Penglai Palace. The four walked all the way in Penglai Palace. The ground and walls of the entire Penglai Palace were all covered with marble. Under the bright light, it looked even more noble and extraordinary. Looking at such an arrangement, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also understood that the cost of the construction must be very high. It was obvious that Penglai Palace was very rich. The entire Penglai Palace was very large. It seemed to be divided into many areas. Many areas could not be approached at will. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three did not ask anything. They thought that Penglai Palace must be a place with a strict hierarchy. Finally, after walking for a long time, the disciples stopped in front of a building. Master Long is here. You can go in. Thank you very much. Di Beichen cupped his hands, and the disciple turned and left. When Long Yanwei saw Di Beichen and the other three, a joyful smile couldn't help but surface on his face. He had already guessed that these four little fellows would definitely come to find him today. Demon pet eggs had a great attraction to every cultivator. You're here. There was a faint smile on Long Yanwei's face. He did not show the slightest bit of arrogance because of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three's agreement. He still had an amiable and approachable appearance. Please sit. Seeing Long Yanwei's appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but sigh in their hearts. No wonder Long Yanwei had such a great reputation on Penglai Island. At the very least, they did not see the slightest bit of arrogance from Long Yanwei. It was not easy for someone in a high position to maintain such an amiable attitude. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three sat down at the side, but their eyes quietly sized up the entire hall. This hall was extremely eye-catching among the many buildings they had seen before. It could be seen that Long Yanwei's position in Penglai Palace was very high. The decoration inside was not magnificent, but it was unique. It showed the atmosphere and luxury everywhere, but it was not tainted with the slightest bit of vulgarity. It was very consistent with Long Yanwei's character. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three sat down, they realized that Long Yanwei had already sent people to prepare their tea. Since you came to find me today, you must be willing to join Penglai Palace? Long Yanwei's face had a faint smile as he went straight to the point. Chapter 33-25. Hearing Long Yanwei's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three looked at each other and then nodded together. Since they had already made their decision, there was naturally no need to hide anything at this moment. Before joining, we just want to know that what Master Long said about giving each of us a suitable monster pet egg should be true, right? Di Beichen stared at Long Yanwei and asked aloud. The only attraction of Penglai Palace to them was the monster pet egg. Other than that, they really didn't care about anything else. Long Yanwei nodded, but after listening to Di Beichen's words, he felt that things seemed to be a little different from what he had imagined. That day when you fought with the heaven-shaking faction's leader, I saw it with my own eyes. As far as I know, you already have 3 contract beasts. There should only be one person who doesn't have a contract beast, right? Long Yanwei stared at Di Beichen and the other 3. So far, he still didn't know which 3 contract beasts belonged to which 3 cultivators. However, Xiao He and Xiao Bai were obviously contract beasts of the same breed, and they were of the same age. If his judgment wasn't wrong, these 2 contract beasts should belong to a couple among Di Beichen and the other 3. Back then, Bai Shi fought together with Di Beichen, and their cooperation was extremely good. Therefore, Long Yanwei had already determined that Bai Shi was Di Beichen's contract beast. Xiao He and Xiao Bai should belong to Xiren and Shangguan Yingying's contract beasts. The only person who didn't have a contract beast should be Bailey Hongzhuang. However, when he confirmed this point, Long Yanwei felt that something was amiss. Because Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao He and Xiao Bai cooperated extremely well, and they looked more like her contract beasts, he couldn't be sure for a moment. Following Long Yanwei's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 were slightly startled, and their expressions suddenly became a little more interesting. In fact, Long Yanwei's thoughts weren't wrong at all. No matter who it was, after seeing the previous situation, they would have determined that the 3 of them had contract beasts. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was really too special, and couldn't be judged with common sense at all. At the same time, they also understood why Long Yanwei would be so generous to give them such a condition. 1 contract beast and 3 contract beasts were completely different. With Long Yanwei's status, it shouldn't be difficult to take out a contract beast that matched their status, but to take out 3, this was a huge amount of capital. For a moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and others didn't know how to answer to Long Yanwei's question. When Long Yanwei noticed the slightly awkward and strange expressions on Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3's faces, he couldn't help but reveal a trace of doubt on his face. He asked, "Am I wrong?" Hearing this, Di Beichen muttered to himself for a moment, then said, "Lord Long, our situation might not be the same as what you think." "Then what situation is it? You can tell me. Since I've promised you this, I'll definitely do it." Long Yanwei raised his eyebrows. He was really curious about where he had made a mistake in his judgment. As soon as he said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3's eyes lit up. They seemed to have found a good opportunity to take advantage of him. With Long Yanwei's status, it was unlikely that he would take back his promise after making it. Chapter 33-26. Following Di Beichen's words, Long Yanwei became the one with a strange expression. He looked at Di Beichen's group of 4 in confusion, not understanding what Di Beichen meant. "None of you have contracted beasts?" Long Yanwei frowned, "But according to what I saw earlier, your group clearly has 3 contracted beasts. Could it be that 2 of them have not contracted? That's impossible. If they had not contracted, then they would not be contracted beasts but monsters. Monsters would not listen to the commands of cultivators. Even if they cooperated for a short period of time, they could betray at any time. It wasn't as if no one on the Shangxian continent had ever attempted such a thing, but it had all ended in failure. This was because demonic beasts had different personalities from humans. Without the power of a contract, their wild nature could erupt at any time. Not only that, the higher the level of a monster, the stronger the bestial nature in its body. At the level of the 5th level of the Purple Realm, ordinary monsters would not be able to form any kind of cooperative relationship with cultivators. If Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 4 could really do this, then he would have to ask for advice. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but say, "To tell you the truth, those 3 monsters are my contracted beasts." At this level of cultivation, Bailey Hongzhuang no longer had to hide the fact that she had 3 contract beasts. What's more, her 3 contract beasts were not something that anyone could underestimate. 2 of them were at the 5th level of the Purple Realm, and 1 was at the 6th level of the Purple Realm. Ordinary people would not dare to offend such a team, so they are all yours alone. Long Yanwei suddenly understood, but when he realized what this meant, he could not help but be stunned. Then, his eyes widened as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang as if he had seen something unbelievable. "I didn't hear you clearly. You said that these 3 contracted beasts are all yours alone? You contracted 3 demonic beasts by yourself? How is that possible?" Long Yanwei, who had been extremely calm, could not help but become agitated at this moment. This completely subverted his common sense. Every cultivator could only contract one monster. Was this not the rule of the Shangxian continent? It was not that no one had ever tried to contract two monsters, but no one had ever succeeded. It was proven that a cultivator could only contract one monster at most. How could Bailey Hongzhuang contract 3 monsters alone? Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 4 were very indifferent to Long Yanwei's exaggerated reaction. In fact, when Di Beichen's group of 3 found out that Bailey Hongzhuang had such a special ability, they were also very surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. You didn't hear wrong. These 3 contracted beasts are my contracted beasts alone. 1 beasts. 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 Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's confirmation, Long Yanwei's incredulous expression did not improve. Can you tell me how you did it? As a sealing master, he thought that he was very familiar with things like contracts. However, from Bailey Hongzhuang's group, he had seen too many strange things. It made him start to doubt his previous knowledge and judgment. I don't know either. I just succeeded in contracting 3 monsters by chance. Chapter 33-27. The reason why she was able to contract 3 monsters was entirely due to the Chaos Ring. If it wasn't for the special ability bestowed upon her by the Chaos Ring, she wouldn't have been able to form a contract with 3 demonic beasts. However, she definitely couldn't reveal the secret of the Chaos Ring. So at this moment, she could only play dumb. In fact, there was no need for Long Yanwei to study this point at all because this point could not be replicated at all. Other than Bailey Hongzhuang, it was impossible for other cultivators to do it, unless there were other chaos rings in this world. However, this possibility was even smaller. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Long Yanwei also understood that Bailey Hongzhuang definitely did not want to reveal this secret, so he did not continue to ask. Everyone had their own secrets. It was not a good habit to rashly inquire about other people's secrets. What's more, they had only met twice. It was naturally impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang to tell him everything. This is really amazing. I have been a contract master for so many years and have never seen such an example. I wonder if you can let your monsters out for me to take a look? Long Yanwei said. At this moment, only Baisher was following Bailey Hongzhuang. Xiao He and Xiao Bai were both on Bailey Hongzhuang's head. Long Yanwei did not notice. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and did not refuse Long Yanwei's request. Since Long Yanwei had already seen the situation of their battle that day, then whether it was Baisher, Xiao He or Xiao Bai, he believed that he already had a certain understanding of them. Even if they did not know Long Yanwei's strength, they knew that Master Long, who had such a position in Penglai Palace, was definitely extraordinary. In the next second, Xiao He and Xiao Bai appeared in front of Long Yanwei. However, the 2 little guys were still sitting on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulders. Seeing this scene, Long Yanwei also confirmed that his previous judgment was not wrong. These 2 monsters did indeed have the ability to change their size. It was really amazing. Young Master D, I wonder if you would mind letting me see their contract totems? Long Yanwei shifted his gaze from Xiao He and Xiao Bai to Bailey Hongzhuang. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang was extremely certain, this news was too shocking to Long Yanwei. If he did not see it with his own eyes, he would never believe it. Di Beichen and the other 2 could not help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. If Bailey Hongzhuang was unwilling, they could directly refuse. Even if they would offend Long Yanwei, it was not a big deal. Bailey Hongzhuang to Bailey Hongzhuang. In the next second, Bailey Hongzhuang's mind moved. A circular ceiling totem appeared on Baisher, Xiao He and Xiao Bai's bodies. This totem had always existed. Any cultivator with a contract beast would have such a ceiling totem. It was just that it could not be seen normally. It could only be seen when it was deliberately revealed. When Long Yanwei saw that the totems on the 3 contract beasts were exactly the same, he completely believed Bailey Hongzhuang's words. All of this was actually true. The 3 contract beasts actually belonged to Bailey Hongzhuang alone. Long Yanwei sighed and shook his head. He said, This situation has really overturned my understanding. I've really learned something today. Chapter 33:28. Master Long, now that this point has been confirmed, I wonder what your plans are? Di Beichen reminded Long Yanwei. They came here for Long Yanwei's answer, not to let Bailey Hongzhuang do research for Long Yanwei. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Long Yanwei finally recovered from his shock. Very quickly, he understood the meaning of Di Beichen's question. So, none of you three have contracted beasts? Di Beichen, Wen Ziren, and Shangguan Yingying all nodded. They secretly cursed in their hearts, wondering if Long Yanwei would go back on his word. Actually, this couldn't be considered going back on his word. From the beginning to the end, Long Yanwei only thought that they were missing one demon pet egg. Now that it had become 3, most people wouldn't be able to bear it. Therefore, Di Beichen and the other 2 didn't have too much hope. Even if Long Yanwei refused, it would be reasonable. Looking at Di Beichen and the other 2 who nodded in front of him, Long Yanwei finally reacted. In this way, he would have to take out 3 demon pet eggs. This was completely different from what he had thought before. Long Yanwei felt that it was worth it to use 1 demon pet egg to recruit these 4 young people. However, to use 3 demon pet eggs to recruit them, the price was not ordinary. If this news were to spread, everyone would think that he was crazy. A demon pet egg of this level was extremely precious. Many cultivators had paid an extremely high price to obtain one from him. Just like that, he gave out 3 for free. Normally, no one with a normal brain would do such a thing. However, when he thought about the promise he had made before, he felt that he was in a dilemma. Speaking of which, there was indeed a loophole in what he had said before. He had said that he would give Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 demon pet eggs that were suitable for them, but he had never said the number. Therefore, it was extremely normal for Di Beichen and the others to think that it was 3 demon pet eggs. From the beginning to the end, this could only be said to be because he hadn't figured out the specific situation before, resulting in such a problem. Now that things had developed to this point, Long Yanwei was a little embarrassed for a moment. He didn't know how to answer. Didn't Master Long already say before that he would give each of us a suitable demon pet egg? Then we'll thank Master Long in advance. Ziren noticed Long Yanwei's awkwardness and understood why Long Yanwei felt awkward. Di Beichen was too upright. If things continued to develop like this, he might miss this good opportunity. Since Long Yanwei was in a dilemma, he might as well help Long Yanwei make a decision. When Ziren had always felt that this saying made a lot of sense. 3 demon pet eggs. If he missed this opportunity, he would never have this opportunity again. Although he was a little shameless, he believed that with Long Yanwei's wealth and ability, this little loss was not enough to hurt him. He was just a little annoyed in his heart. However, this demon pet egg had fallen into their hands. That was a real benefit. Master Long, thank you very much. We have always been troubled by the matter of contracting beasts. You directly helped us solve this big problem. We will definitely remember this kindness in our hearts. Noticing Ziren's gaze, Di Beichen and Shangguan Yingying also said words of gratitude. Chapter 33:29. After all, in this kind of situation, if he were to say no, wouldn't that be equivalent to slapping his own face? With his status, he would rather suffer a loss than to slap his own face. However, such a big loss really made his heart ache. Long Yanwei couldn't help but glance at Ziren. He didn't expect this kid to be so cunning. He directly sealed off his escape route. He felt helpless in his heart. After Bailey Hongzhuang saw Ziren's actions, she also felt a wave of admiration in her heart. Just by looking at Long Yanwei's expression, she knew that they had taken advantage of him this time. Forget it. Since you guys have already thanked me, then this matter is decided. Long Yanwei sighed. Since things had come to this point, there was nothing he could do about it. Of course, if he had known about this condition before he recruited Bailey Hongshuang and the other three, he would definitely not have recruited them. With such a price, he could recruit too many genius cultivators. However, he had been made a fool of. He could only comfort himself that the potential of Bailey Hongshuang and the other three wasn't something that ordinary geniuses could compare to. Hearing Long Yanwei's words, Bailey Hongshuang and the other three revealed a joyful smile. This was really good news, although there were some twists and turns in the middle. However, the result was still as they wished. Thank you, Master Long. When Bailey Hongshuang and the other three left the hall where Long Yanwei was, the smile on Long Yanwei's face disappeared. What replaced it was a thick sense of helplessness. I didn't expect that I would be schemed against by a few little fellows this time. Long Yanwei shook his head. One had to know that every demon pet egg of this level required him to spend a lot of effort. He didn't expect that there would be three less. Compared to Long Yanwei's depression, Bailey Hongshuang and the other three were extremely happy. This was the best news for them. Xiren, you were too smart just now. Bailey Hongshuang gave Xiren a thumbs up. If it wasn't for Xiren tricking Long Yanwei earlier, their contract beasts would have been ruined. Xiren raised his eyebrows. You guys can't even do something like this. You still need me to do it. Haha. Shangguan Yingying also looked at Xiren in surprise. Usually I didn't see you have any great ability. I didn't expect you to be so quick-witted. To be honest, among the four of us, you're the only one with the thickest skin. Hearing this, when Xiren couldn't help but roll his eyes. Yingying, you only need to praise me for being smart, witty, and wise. There's no need for you to say the rest. Haha. Shangguan Yingying stuck out her tongue. I'm used to teasing you, but I really have to praise you for what happened just now. Beichen, didn't I do a good job? When Xiren blinked, with Master Long's status, he can't go back on his word, so he can only suffer in silence. However, with his rich family background, he can still afford this loss. Looking at Xiren's proud look, the corner of D. Beichen's mouth curled up. He said, he is indeed powerful. We have taken such a big advantage of Master Long. In the future we must remember, if there is a chance, we must fight for Master Long. After all, we were recruited by him. Chapter 3330. The most important thing was that they took such a big advantage of Long Yanwei. But Long Yuanwu did not show the slightest bit of anger. He just felt very helpless about what he had said before. Just from this point, it could be seen that Long Yanwei was a magnanimous person. He was definitely not a narrow-minded person. Bailey Hongshuang and the other three slowly walked to the reporting hall of Penglai Palace. Long Yanwei just asked them to wait here for a while. He would soon arrange for someone to help them register as disciples of Penglai Palace. As for the monster pet egg, they would have to wait until they became a true disciple of Penglai Palace before they could receive it. Long Yanwei had to help them choose a suitable monster pet egg first. In this regard, Bailey Hongshuang and the other three were not in a hurry. Since Long Yanwei had already agreed, he would definitely give them the monster pet egg. What was the point of waiting for a few days? The reporting hall of Penglai Palace was very large, but there were very few people inside. There were only a few scattered people. It seemed very empty. The four directly sat down in the rest area on the side, waiting for the person who would guide them to come. As far as I know, there are many disciples of Penglai Palace, but we haven't seen many cultivators so far. Where did they go? Shangguan Yingying looked around curiously. She was originally looking forward to seeing the spectacular scene of Penglai Palace's disciples, but the situation was obviously different from what she had imagined. We should be outside of Penglai Palace now. The disciples of Penglai Palace should not be cultivating here. That's why we haven't seen many people, when Xiren said. But we just went to where Master Long was. It can't be that the entire outside is so big, right? Shangguan Yingying raised her eyebrows and said incredulously, I feel that the place we just went to should not be an ordinary place. It's extremely secluded and deep. I'm afraid that ordinary cultivators can't enter at all, Bailey Hongshuang said. Beichen nodded slightly. Master Long's position in Penglai Palace is very high. The place where he is must be where ordinary disciples can't get close, so it's not surprising that we can't see anyone. Shangguan Yingying curled her lips. This Penglai Palace has a strict hierarchy. We should know after we become Penglai Palace's disciples. I'm afraid we'll have to wait for a while. Master Long has suffered such a huge loss. I'm afraid he'll need some time to recover. As Beichen's voice fell, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but chuckle. Everything that had happened since they met Long Yanwei made them feel extremely amused. Let's take this opportunity to remove the disguise on our faces, Shangguan Yingying said. Previously, when they were talking with Long Yanwei had told them that after becoming a disciple of Penglai Palace, there was no need to disguise themselves here. This was also one of the rules of the Penglai Palace. However, they could still continue to disguise themselves when they went out. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three did not have any objections. When they first came to Penglai Island, they did so for the sake of safety. But now, as they gradually familiarized themselves with Penglai Island, they no longer had any scruples. It wasn't a bad choice to reveal their true faces. At least, they were no longer cultivators who were only at the 3rd level of the Purple Realm. Chapter 33-31. Li Shengkai was very surprised. Today, Master Long told him that he had recruited 4 new cultivators and asked him to help register the 4 cultivators so that they could become official disciples of Penglai Palace. If such words came from other people's mouths, Li Shengkai would think it was normal. After all, Penglai Palace was so big that they would recruit some cultivators every once in a while. It was just that Master Long was usually focused on contracting beasts and rarely took the initiative to recruit disciples, which made him surprised. What kind of genius cultivators were worthy of Master Long's personal recruitment? Once this news spread, it would attract a lot of attention. When Li Shengkai arrived at the reporting hall, he saw the backs of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3. He immediately walked over and said, "You 4 should be the cultivators recruited by Master Long, right?" Hearing the voice coming from behind, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 turned to look at the person who came. They saw that this person was wearing the uniform of Penglai Palace's disciple with a smile on his face. "Yes, it's us," Beichen said. After Li Shengkai saw the appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3, he couldn't help but be surprised. In his opinion, the cultivators who could be recruited by Master Long must be very talented in cultivation because Master Long didn't care about ordinary cultivators at all. However, the 4 cultivators in front of him were too young. Looking at them, the oldest was probably no more than 25 years old, and the youngest looked like she was only 20 years old. On Penglai Island, almost the vast majority of cultivators were around 30 years old. After all, it would take a long time to cultivate to the 5th level of the Purple Realm. These 4 faces were so young that for a moment, Li Shengkai even wondered if the 4 of them deliberately disguised themselves. However, after thinking of Master Long, he felt that perhaps this was the strength of the 4 people in front of him. Breaking through to the 5th level of the Purple Realm at such a young age was indeed a genius. At least in this regard, they had already surpassed many disciples of Penglai Palace. In addition, what surprised Li Shengkai was the appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3. Compared to their outstanding cultivation, their appearance was not inferior at all. A handsome man and a beautiful woman at a glance, it was enough to make people's eyes light up. Even though 1,000 thoughts were running through his mind, Li Shengkai's expression did not change much. He smiled and said, "Come with me. I'll bring you to report." Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 followed Li Shengkai to the front of the reporting hall. A female disciple helped to record the information of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3. At the same time, a Qingkuan bag fell into each of their hands. The registration information was very simple. All he had to do was to report his name and strength. Seeing this, Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but ask, "Is the report that simple?" She thought it would be a very complicated matter, but she didn't expect it to be settled so easily. Hearing this, Li Shangkai smiled faintly and immediately explained, if you were an ordinary cultivator, you would need to go through an assessment. The reporting process is very tedious, but you were recommended by Master Long, so this step is directly omitted. It's much more convenient. Chapter 33-32. After hearing Li Shangkai's explanation, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others understood that Long Yanwei's referral had saved them a lot of trouble. Speaking of which, I'm a little curious about how you know Master Long? Li Shangkai couldn't help but ask curiously. Long Yanwei basically stayed in Penglai Palace all the time and rarely went out. He really couldn't guess how Bailey Hongzhuang and the others knew Master Long. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other. They had just arrived at Penglai Palace and there were many strong people there. It was better to keep a low profile. Li Shangkai also noticed the hesitation on the faces of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others and quickly said, by the way, let me introduce myself first. My name is Li Shangkai, an Outer Hall disciple. We will be in the same sect in the future. If you need any help, don't hesitate to look for me. Then I'll have to trouble you, senior brother Li. Di Beichen cupped his hands. You're welcome. Li Shangkai smiled and waved his hand. I have always liked to make friends, and I can tell that you are genius cultivators at first glance. I feel very lucky to have the opportunity to make friends with you. Looking at Li Shangkai's honest face, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also showed a kind smile on their faces. However, no one really regarded Li Shangkai as a trustworthy person. They had already suffered this kind of loss when they met Gao Hanxia and Gao Hanxiu. Most of the time, the more honest and simple-looking a person was, the more likely they were to cause harm to others. Anyone who could get some status in Penglai Palace was not an ordinary person. If they dared to look down on others, then they could capsize at any time. This Qingkuan bag contains the exclusive clothes of our Penglai Palace. You have to wear these clothes on weekdays. If you go out as a disciple of Penglai Palace, you also need to wear these clothes. This is the symbol of our Penglai Palace. Many times when you are training outside, wearing these clothes can also reduce some trouble. If the clothes are not suitable, you can come back to exchange. However, you must use your old clothes to exchange, so as to prevent disciples from taking too many and giving them to cultivators outside. About your residence, I happen to be going back to my residence. Let's talk about it while walking. What do you think? Li Shangkai's face always had a kind smile, and he generously introduced the situation of Penglai Palace to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Then I'll have to trouble senior brother Li. You're welcome. This is what Master Long asked me to do. If I don't do it well, I won't be able to explain it to Master Long, Li said honestly. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three followed Li Shangkai out of the reporting hall and walked towards the residential area. The palace's disciples and the inner, this. Disciples can't compare outer, and the resources are the resources. The resources, and S's. However, the number of inner palace disciples has never been high. It seems that there have never been more than 500 of them. As for the specific reason, I am not too sure. Chapter 33-33. Is there a big difference in strength between the inner and outer palace disciples? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with interest. It was the first time she had heard about the inner and outer palace. She had always thought that Penglai Palace was a whole. She did not expect that there was such a division inside. It seemed that their judgment was right. This Penglai Palace was really hierarchical. Li Shangkai nodded. Of course, if you want to become an inner palace disciple, you must pass the promotion assessment. I have never participated in the promotion assessment, but according to the information I have learned, it is very difficult to pass the promotion assessment. Most outer palace disciples have failed. As for how strong the inner palace disciples are, I am not very clear about this because the inner palace disciples practice in the inner palace of Penglai Palace. They usually do not deal with us outer palace disciples at all. It is difficult for us to come in contact with them. If you have the strength to become an inner palace disciple, it will be best. Both your identity and status will be greatly improved. If you say that you are an inner palace disciple of Penglai Palace when you walk on Penglai Island, ordinary practitioners will not dare to offend you. If you are only an outer palace disciple, although most people will not choose to be your enemy, there will still be some trouble. We are now going to the practice area of the outer palace disciples. Although we have become outer palace disciples of Penglai Palace, if we can't pass the promotion assessment and become an inner palace disciple after 5 years here, then we will be stripped of our identity as a Penglai Palace disciple and become an ordinary practitioner again. Therefore, almost all of the cultivators are working very hard in their cultivation in order to pass the advancement test. Listening to Li Shankai's introduction, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 understood that the number of disciples in Penglai Palace had been controlled within a certain range for this reason. As long as they could not become an inner palace disciple in 5 years, then they would be stripped of their identity as a Penglai Palace disciple. Therefore, the number of disciples maintained a dynamic balance. Every month you can go to the reporting hall to receive cultivation resources. If you go out to practice, these cultivation resources will be accumulated and you can receive them next time. In addition, our outer palace disciples are all in the same residential area. But many unfamiliar disciples do not come and go. However, if you meet a Penglai Palace disciple outside and they are in danger, you must help them. Otherwise, you will be disregarding your relationship with your fellow disciples. Once you are found out, you will be punished. If the situation is serious, you may be expelled directly. We understand. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 suddenly understood. It was no wonder that Penglai Palace could enjoy such a reputation and status. This rule probably played a part in it. At least in the eyes of the outside practitioners, the disciples of Penglai Palace disciples were unusually united. Therefore, ordinary people did not dare to offend the disciples of Penglai Palace. Penglai Palace's disciples. If they are not strong enough, it is better to do it. Phew. If you Chapter 33-34. Listening to Li Shankai's introduction, although Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 did not know enough about the outer hall of Penglai Palace, they had a general outline in their hearts. At least this outer hall was definitely not a very peaceful place. On the contrary, there would be much more friction here than outside Penglai Palace. Finally, under Li Shankai's lead, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 finally arrived at the outer hall disciples' cultivation area. This way they found that Long Yanwei's residence, which they went to before, was in the opposite direction from here. No wonder they did not see any cultivators before. Coming to this residential area was undoubtedly much more lively. There were many outer hall disciples, so this residential area was also a large area. Looking around, dozens of buildings turned out to be the residential area of outer hall disciples. Seeing such a scale, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 were amazed. When they looked at the gate of Penglai Palace before, they felt that Penglai Palace was huge, but now looking at the residential area, they felt that everything they saw outside was nothing at all. What's more, this was only a residential area of outer hall disciples, not including other places. The entire Penglai Palace was divided into 2 areas, inner hall and outer hall. This Penglai Palace is really big, several times bigger than I thought. Shangguan Yingying's eyes flashed with surprise. Penglai Island was just an island. She really did not expect the sphere of influence on an island to be so large. When Zyra nodded, when I was on Penglai Island earlier, I thought that Penglai Palace only occupied a small part of Penglai Island. Now it seems that Penglai Palace occupies more than half of Penglai Island. No wonder it's called Penglai Island. I just don't know if Hundred Flowers Island and Red Moon Island are the same. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. Penglai Island should be the gathering place of Penglai Palace. The streets we saw before were just lively places developed around Penglai Palace. Only after entering the Penglai Palace would they understand the real situation. This was very different from what they knew before. This is the second building where I live. If you need anything in the future, you can come here to find me. Li Shangkai pointed at the building where he lived. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three looked around. The entire residential area of the outer palace looked exactly the same, except for the number of buildings marked on the buildings. As he spoke, Li Shangkai pointed to the other side. That's the 5th building where you live. I'll take you there first. There's a door number hanging on each door. You can confirm your room by looking at the door number. The 4 of you came in together, so you should live close to each other. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' eyes lit up. If they lived close by, it would be the most convenient for them. When Li Shangkai led Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 4 to building number 5, many outer palace disciples' gazes landed on Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 4. Their gazes were filled with surprise and doubt. I didn't expect new disciples to join today, but these guys seem a little too young. They can pass the assessment of Penglai Palace at such a young age. Seems that these guys are not simple. Chapter 33-35. When almost everyone saw the age of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3, they couldn't help but exclaim in their hearts. To be able to reach such a cultivation at such a young age, they were truly geniuses. However, there were even more people who were unconvinced. All the cultivators here believed that they were geniuses and were absolutely unwilling to admit that they were inferior to anyone else. I don't know if these guys are strong or not, but their appearances are very outstanding. Look at those 2 women, they are both peerless beauties. Their temperament and appearance can be said to be unparalleled. The gazes of all the male disciples were attracted by Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying. When a cultivator's strength increased to a certain level, their appearance would also improve a lot. It was precisely because of this that when one reached the 5th level of the purple realm and above, it was impossible for ugly men and women to exist. At least they looked very good. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying were already outstanding in appearance. Coupled with the improvement of their temperament, they appeared even more outstanding. Those 2 men are also very handsome. They look like pretty boys. When talking about Di Beichen and Wen Ziren, the group of men were not so polite. Their appearance was definitely a great weapon for women. Everyone couldn't help but be envious and jealous. Compared to the disdain of the male disciples, the eyes of the female disciples lit up when they looked at Di Beichen and Wen Xinya. It was human nature to eat and lust. Regardless of whether it was a man or a woman, they all liked to look at people with outstanding appearances. This kind of handsome appearance was definitely one of the best in the entire outer hall. Li Shangkai led Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 all the way to the 5th building. He heard everyone's discussion clearly and couldn't help but laugh. Junior brother, junior sister, your appearances are really outstanding. When I first saw you, I couldn't help but be surprised. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 couldn't help but show some helplessness on their faces. The reason why they chose to disguise themselves before was also inseparable from this matter. It was because they were all easy to remember at a glance. After changing their appearances, they would become ordinary and no one would pay attention to them. This way they would be able to save a lot of trouble. However, Penglai Palace had its own rules. Cultivators had to show their true faces in Penglai Palace. Otherwise, no one could be sure if you were really a disciple of Penglai Palace. Hence this problem arose once again. Haha, when Ziren chuckled. This kind of praise was also troublesome for them. This is building number 5. Your Qiankuan bag contains the key to your residence. The house number is written on it so you can go in directly. The manual also contains the various matters of living in the outer palace. I believe you will understand after reading it. If there's nothing else I can help you with, I'll take my leave first, Li Shangkai said with a smile. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 all cupped their hands. Thank you, senior brother Li. Take care. Looking at the expressions of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3, Li Shangkai nodded. However, his expression was a little awkward and his footsteps were a little hesitant. However, after seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 didn't do anything else, he strode away. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three couldn't help but look at each other. Did they miss something? Chapter 33-36. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Shang Guanyin couldn't help but nod her head. Hongzhuang, I also have the same feeling. Seems like there's a problem. But we didn't do anything wrong. What problem could there be? Ziran raised his eyebrows. His face was full of doubt. He really couldn't think of anything wrong with their behavior. Di Beichen looked at Li Shunkai's back as he left. His expression was unfathomable. He seemed to be thinking about something. In the end, he didn't say anything. Forget it. Let's not think too much about it. Let's find our own residence first. Everyone nodded and immediately walked into the interior of the fifth building. They had been standing here for a long time. Many people had been staring at them. The number of gazes that were sizing them up was not ordinary. Soon Bailey Hongzhuang and the others found the place where they lived. Just as Li Shankai said, their 4 rooms were adjacent to each other. It was very convenient. Bailey Hongzhuang opened the door. When she saw it, her eyes couldn't help but flash with a hint of amazement. The room was extremely large. It was even larger than the room in the inn. The furnishings and decorations inside were very simple. However, whether it was the material or other aspects, these things were obviously very valuable. This kind of living place was really satisfying. Wow, I didn't expect a room to be so big. It's really comfortable to live here. Shangguan Yingying's eyes flashed with excitement. When they were outside, most of the places they lived were very simple. However, the room in front of them wasn't just a place to live. On the contrary, it was extremely comfortable. Bailey Hongzhuang's face rippled with a faint smile. The environment here is indeed not bad. It's quite good to cultivate here. They also needed their own residence on Penglai Island. After all, they couldn't always stay in the Magic Tower. After leaving the Magic Tower, they needed to find a place to settle down and cultivate in peace. Now it seemed that it was indeed a good choice for them to join Penglai Palace. Moreover, there were demon pet eggs. This time they had really profited. For a moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were filled with gratitude towards Long Yanwei. If Long Yanwei had not gone to recruit them, they would have missed this great opportunity. However, at this moment, Long Yanwei's heart was filled with helplessness. He had stayed in Penglai Palace for so long, but he had never suffered such a big loss. His heart was filled with helplessness. Yanwei, I heard that you recruited those 4 little fellows? Yi Zihua strode into Long Yanwei's residence with a big smile on his face. You're really fast. However, Yi Zihua did not receive a response from Long Yanwei. He only saw Long Yanwei sitting in the room with a helpless expression. What's wrong with you? Why do you have such an expression? Yi Zihua couldn't help but wonder. He hadn't heard of Long Yanwei having any troubles recently. Long Yanwei waved his hand and said, Don't mention it. I suffered a huge loss today. Hearing this, Yi Zihua could not help but be stunned, and a look of astonishment appeared on his face. Did I hear wrongly? Is there anyone who dares to make you suffer? Is he tired of living? Chapter 33-37. Long Yanwei shook his head helplessly. If I was cheated by the palace master, then so be it. I've already gotten used to it. Not cheated by the palace master? Then who cheated you? There aren't many people in this Penglai Palace who can cheat you. Yi Zihua's eyes flashed with interest. He had known Long Yanwei for so long. Other than the palace master who could usually dig some things out of him, ordinary people really couldn't do it. After all, with Long Yanwei's identity, it was impossible for the other party to use force to suppress others. Sigh, this time I've really suffered a huge loss. I was cheated by those 4 little fellows. Long Yanwei spread out his hands. He said frankly. The moment these words came out, Yi Zihua couldn't help but be stunned. He said, You're talking about the 4 little fellows that you just recruited? That's right. It's them. What did they cheat you of? Demon pet egg? Long Yanwei nodded. That's right. It's a demon pet egg. Izihua smiled faintly. He said, cheating you of a demon pet egg is indeed a huge price. However, those 4 little fellows all have a bright future. 2 of them are even inheritors of the blood-ground abyss. I feel that the possibility of them becoming inner palace disciples in the future is very high. Just treat it as a reward for them in advance. There's no need to be so worried. In any case, you can still take out a demon pet egg. It's not a big problem. Looking at Izihua's matter-of-fact appearance, the helplessness in Long Yanwei's heart grew. It's not 1 demon pet egg. It's 3 demon pet eggs. If it was just 1 demon pet egg, I wouldn't have such an expression right now. Following Long Yanwei's words, Izihua couldn't help but be startled. He looked at Long Yanwei in astonishment. He wondered if he had heard wrongly. What did you say? 3 demon pet eggs? I didn't hear wrongly, right? Long Yanwei shook his head. You didn't hear wrongly. It's 3 demon pet eggs. Damn. Izihua couldn't help but ridicule. Are you kidding me? In order to recruit the 4 little fellows back, you paid the price of 3 demon pet eggs? This price is too big. Do you really think so highly of them? As he spoke, Izihua couldn't help but shake his head. That's not right. For a miser like you, it would take half a day for the palace master to come here and dig out a single demon pet egg. How could you possibly agree to take out 3 demon pet eggs in one go? Sai, these are all tricks. Speaking of which, it's my fault for not being careful with my words. Long Yanwei waved his hand. Forget it. Since things have come to this, I won't say anything more. However, Izihua's interest was piqued, and he said, tell me about it. It's not easy to encounter such a situation, so I have to understand how you suffered such a loss. Facing Izihua's stubbornness, Long Yanwei had no choice but to tell Izihua about how he recruited Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. After hearing all this, Izihua was shocked, but at the same time, he was also very interested in Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3. Haha, you Master Long personally went to recruit a cultivator but was rejected. If this news were to spread, it would be unbelievable. Haha. Izihua couldn't help but laugh out loud. Just thinking about Long Yanwei's expression when he was rejected, he felt that it must be extremely interesting. Looking at Izihua's expression, Long Yanwei couldn't help but roll his eyes. This was the most helpless thing about meeting a newcomer. No matter how you introduced yourself, the other party was completely clueless. Chapter 33-38. Izihua put away his joking expression, and a trace of seriousness emerged on his face. 1 person contracting 3 demonic beasts. This was incredible news. If every cultivator could contract a few demonic beasts, then their battle prowess would be greatly enhanced. In other words, if someone wanted to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang, then not only would they have to deal with Bailey Hongzhuang alone, they would also have to deal with her 3 extremely terrifying contracted beasts. Aside from group battles, who could beat Bailey Hongzhuang in a duel? Long Yanwei nodded. I also feel that this point is really hard to fathom, but when I looked at the contracted totems of the 3 contracted beasts, they really are exactly the same. That's strange, I've never heard of such a strange thing. Izihua frowned. Has such a thing happened in the history of the Shangxian continent? I've checked the ancient records, but there doesn't seem to be such a record. I can't tell how Bailey Hongzhuang did it. At this point, Long Yanwei seemed to have forgotten that he had been tricked, and his eyes flashed with a strong light of interest. He was very interested in studying this kind of thing that was beyond the scope of understanding. Looking at Long Yanwei like this, Izihua couldn't help but laugh. Don't you always say that there's nothing new? Now that so many new things have appeared on Bailey Hongzhuang, isn't it just right for you to study? If she leaves, you won't be able to continue to understand these things, so if you suffer this loss, then so be it. At most, I'll accompany you to look for newborn beasts in a few days. That's what you said. You'll accompany me in a few days. Long Yanwei's face suddenly revealed a smile, sweeping away the haze from before. It was precisely because of Yi Zihua's words that he decided to suffer this loss. Although the price he had to pay was a bit high, the benefits he wanted were also the same. After Li Shangkai sent Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 to their residence, he returned to his own residence. On the way there were many people who knew Li Shangkai who stopped him. Li Shangkai, where did those 4 guys come from? Were they recruited by some master? The faces of all the cultivators flashed with excitement. Now was not the time for Penglai Palace to recruit new people, so most of the cultivators who came at this time were recruited by the higher-ups of Penglai Palace. Everyone paid the most attention to such cultivators on a daily basis. They were recruited by Master Long. Li Shangkai told the truth. As soon as Li Shangkai finished speaking, the expressions of all the cultivators changed. Their faces were filled with shock. Master Long? They were actually recruited by Master Long? How is this possible? I have been in the Penglai Palace for so long, but this is the first time I have heard of Master Long actively recruiting cultivators. Li Shangkai, did you make a mistake? Seeing everyone's doubtful expressions, Li Shangkai could not help but say, "Why would I lie to you about this? I just happened to go to Master Long's place. When Master Long saw me, he said that he had recruited 4 cultivators and asked me to report to him." Seeing Li Shangkai's serious expression and that he didn't seem to be joking at all, everyone's expressions couldn't help but change. You're tuning into the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.